Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken. Joining me in the studio, as always, he is the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us in the studio, senior sports editor. You know him. He is your coach. He is my coach. He is the coach, Coach Duffy.
What is going on, everybody?
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports, so definitely join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our links at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Join in on Facebook. Join in on Twitter. Join in on Instagram. Join in on Podchaser. Drop a 5-star review there. Apple Podcasts, too. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPH when you're talking with us, because we have a lot to discuss. Kicking off the sports show this week, those NBA playoffs are still rolling strong.
Yeah.
2 Game 7s now to recap, and let's jump into the Game 7 that's taking place tonight, because there are 2 Game 7s in this playoff series. But going on tonight, we have Utah and we have Denver. Let's go.
You got Jamal Murray versus Utah is what you have.
That's true.
Man's been on fire lately. I mean, 2 straight 50-point games. Before that, a 46-point game. I mean, they're unstoppable right now. They're throwing everything at him. They're doubling them. They're tripling them. They're hedging off the pick and rolls. They're double teaming him off the pick and rolls. He's running an ISO ball. He's telling people to get out of his way. I mean, anything that Utah does right now, they do not have an answer for the one player that is Jamal Murray.
I'll say, for what it's worth, the spread as we record is Denver by 1 point.
Wow.
And the over-under is 217.5.
I'll take that line.
I will take that line every day. Like, this series has been a surprise, and like Coach touched upon, I mean, Jamal Murray has taken the series over. And I thought when we were going into this would have been the Spider Show, and I thought it would have been a wrap for Utah. But Denver has really came on late. Surprise heroes all over the place, because, I mean, Jokic has had a good series, but if you talk about Jamal Murray, he is the star. He is the story.
Well, I would have thought, I mean, going into this, I thought Denver was going to run away with it. They had played well during the regular bubble season. So I thought Denver was going to go into the series. I didn't think it was going to be a sweep, but I definitely thought that they would have been up, 3-1 in the series and then wrapped it up maybe, 4-1 or 4-2 at best. But to see they were down 3-1, the opposite, needing to win out right now to force a Game 7. They just haven't had the same chemistry that they had. Michael Porter's been a little bit cold. Had a good Game 6, but didn't play great, in Game 5 and Game 4. But yeah, it's just, and Jokic is, Jokic. He's playing well and serviceable, but he's definitely not giving the numbers that he was during the bubble regular season. So it's definitely been Jamal Murray absolutely carrying this team on his back 100%, pulling Melo-type performances, a la the Knicks during their playoff run, or that stretch where everybody was injured, and it was Jeremy Lin, just scoring buckets. So it's been this series has been a ton of fun to watch, just because on the other side of it, you have Donovan Mitchell, who's coming right back on every possession and going right at whoever's covering him, and it's been a plethora of guys that Denver's been throwing at him too. They've tried a bigger guy like Porter on him. They've tried putting Murray on him. They've thrown Forbes at him. I mean, any answer that they have, they've been trying to put on him, and nothing really has seemed to be the answer either, because Donovan Mitchell's playing great too.
I'll say, admittedly, I haven't paid attention to this series. Nothing against Utah or Denver, just I don't root or care for either team. But the thing I'm noticing, just looking at the game preview on ESPN.com, games 1 through 6 of this, I could sum up in one sentence. Much like the NBA All-Star game, just on a very lesser degree, defense is optional. Every game in this series has scored over 100 points. The lone exception being Denver in Game 3 only scored 87. Every other game, though, both teams have scored over 100 points.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to see this. I mean, nobody's playing defense, but as a fan of the sport, I'm not really mad about it. And when you have 2 teams that are just going off for points, and especially how Denver, like I say, is not just Jokic, it's other role players that are stepping up and making big buckets. this is where the series is getting fun to watch. And just to see how it's been played out, I mean, it's been a roller coaster to say the least.
Yeah.
And I think one of the more slept-on series in all the bubble.
I mean, I wouldn't say that teams aren't playing defense because, I mean, right now, with the way that Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray are playing, they're just outpacing the defense.
Yeah. So they're outpacing everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and when you talk about number of possessions and stops, it's not, all right, Jordan might have scored 60 points a game, but that was also on maybe 80 possessions, that he would score 60 on.
Sure.
These guys are having, upwards of 100 plus possessions per game. So, to be able to hold a team under 100, way more difficult, So you have that factor on top of the fact that, these teams are playing wicked quick. I mean, since the bubble's been, and they've been playing in it, you can definitely tell that teams are trying to run in transition, push the pace a little bit. You saw it a lot last night in the Milwaukee game against Miami. I mean, there was times where Chris Middleton had a 3-on-1, meaning he was the one against 3 Miami players, and he went right at the bucket. Normally you would see teams pull that out, let their offense get set up, and not try and push in transition. Not right now. Teams are being aggressive. So, Jamal Murray, for example, I mean, you might run an ISO play, and try and set something up and try to make a bucket. I'm not open. I'm going to pull it out. Let's reset. Maybe try and call for a pick from Jokic and run a pick and roll. No. He is move, get to the rim and finish at all costs. So, I mean, they are scoring at a high clip.
Oh, yeah, they are. I mean, just to, explain and kind of draw the picture of how dominant and just how scoring at will they are. Donovan Mitchell is leading the NBA in postseason scoring. He's in first place. He's averaging 38.7 points per game. Jamal Murray is in second place at 34 points a game. Third is Kawhi Leonard at 32.8 points per game. Fourth is James Harden with 31.8. And rounding out the top 5 is Luka Doncic, who averaged 31 points a game.
So when you have all these high scoring games, I mean, or players, you're going to be shooting through the roof here.
Yeah, you can't match defensively. I mean, I've watched this, especially the fourth quarter of these games, because down the stretch, I mean, Game 6 or Game 5 in particular was a ton of fun to watch because it was literally, I mean, Jamal Murray scoring 20 straight points for Denver, and he was on fire. And I mean, I watched what Utah was doing defensively. They zoned up behind him. They ran, a half court trap trying to get him to force the ball up. He was dribbling through it, dribbling around it, dribbling over it. I mean, he was doing everything. He was doing everything. I mean, they were literally initiating their offense from the half-court line because that's when Denver was picking him up or when Utah was picking him up, trying to force him to give the ball up, and he just wasn't doing it. So, and I mean, it wasn't just plays that, Denver was running. They were literally they were running 4 across the baseline and just letting him go at the rim with whatever he needed to do. I mean, I only saw him pass the ball once to Michael Porter, who missed the 3, but that was because they literally left him open in the corner. And Jamal Murray's not going to, he's a good player. He's not going to pass up that shot.
And Coach isn't lying. I pulled up the play-by-play from Game 6, and the highlighted names for a good portion of the fourth quarter are Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell alone.
And I mean, that's probably what you're going to see tonight too. I mean, I'm going to imagine that Denver's probably going to do, Utah's going to do more of the same, which is going to try and run a double at him early. I don't think that they'll start the game off that way. I think they're going to, probably get a pace of play, see how things are going, because Utah obviously is no slouch offensively either. So they'll probably, let the tone get set early, and then once Jamal Murray starts to get a feel for the game and get hot, a la like a Devin Booker style, that's when you're going to start to see the double teams get ran at him. And they'll probably, and my guess is that they'll probably force him to try and give up the basketball more tonight if they do run pick and rolls. So instead of just hedging, they're probably going to straight up double him off the double or off the pick. So that way he's forced to give it either to the roll man or try and throw it to the corner for whoever's open in that corner 3. And on the flip side of it with Denver, defensively, I think they just need to keep doing what they're doing because they're outpacing Utah as far as offense. So I think just keep doing what you're doing defensively. Donovan Mitchell's going to get his points, but you got to limit the other guys like Gobert and Ingles. Those are the 2 that you need to worry about there. And Mike Conley's going to do Mike Conley things, which is, he's going to have his wide open threes and he's going to hit them. You just got to come back and have an answer.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely have to figure something out because, I mean, how the series has gone, with Denver winning the first game, the Jazz winning the next 3, and now Denver fighting to win the next 2, we're at Game 7. So all bets are off. So going into tonight, with everything we just covered, who are you picking?
Oh, Denver.
Denver?
I mean, Jamal Murray's playing so well that you cannot. It's the immovable force against the improbable. I mean, whatever that saying is, like
Immovable force. Yeah.
It's just, whatever that is saying is. He is that right now. He's so red hot. I mean, you look at what Devin Booker was able to do towards the end of the bubble once he started to really get a flow for the game, and what is. I know obviously some guys have talked mental health and the difficulties that it's been being in the bubble, but the thing that I don't think that people are taking into effect is they're literally going through the same routine every day. And when you have a player that's in the zone, you want to be able to disrupt that, especially going into a Game 7. You want to be able to disrupt that. That's why, when Jordan would play Utah, they would try and fuck with their hotel room because they would want to try and get Jordan off of his rhythm because they knew that he was going to come in the zone. You see that with, pitchers in baseball and shit.
Yeah.
Batters will step out of the box, mid engagement of pitch just to try or kickers, with icing the kicker. So, Denver, but you can't do that right now because you're in the bubble. Yeah. So he has the same routine. So when a guy who already has a killer instinct is in the flow and in the routine and there's nothing that he needs to change because he's not the road team, he's not the home team, it's at a neutral site, that is what is dangerous. So I got to lean towards Jamal Murray.
Pat?
I'm going to go with Denver. I think at some point you got to figure the defense has got to step up here. And just looking at both teams' depth charts and their starting 5, I think I like Denver's starting 5 a little bit more, because at some point the defense has got to step up and get a stop or get a series of stops and really hold Utah to not score. And I just like Denver a little bit better in that aspect.
Immovable object, irresistible force.
There you go.
There we go.
There we go.
We got it.
Because these teams so equally match as is going into the playoffs. And who would have thought at the beginning of the season that this would have been the case? Because I thought Denver on paper should have ran away with this, but Utah is scrapping, and Mitchell and Gobert are somehow playing together, and winning covers up a lot of Band-Aids, folks.
That's very true.
So let's put it that way, but I think that Band-Aid gets ripped off tonight. I think Denver is going to ice this out, and they're going to finish strong. They are the more talented team on paper, and that is just a fact. Jokic will definitely step up. He'll make some big moments. And, Murray has definitely carried the team so far. It's just when you have the cohesion on the team. And like I say, Denver appears to be more of a team than Utah, at least in my eyes. I think Utah has 2 superstar players, but I just don't think it's going to be enough in a clutch game. I think it's going to be within 10 points of a win, and I think Denver is the next team to move on. So for Game 7, though, all bets are off. You never know what you're going to experience. So they have got an even line going, but they're not the only Game 7 that's in these playoffs.
Nope.
Who would have thought Oklahoma City and Houston would be the big Game 7?
Yeah.
Going into the season when it was done about the trade to get rid of Chris Paul, you get Russell Westbrook, Houston re-ups. They're supposed to be running away with this. And now Oklahoma City is hanging on.
I'll say I'm pretty sure when we previewed the NBA season, and especially after the trade, the 3 of us, I think, all wrote off Oklahoma City for this.
Oh, absolutely. I'll own that one.
Because it was like, Chris Paul and who was the other starting for?
Yeah, exactly. But somehow, some way, they're doing it, and the Thunder is hanging on. Which, if you're Houston, how high is the panic button right now?
DEFCON, whatever the highest DEFCON is.
Yeah, if I'm Houston, I'm Daryl Morey in the front office. I'm definitely watching this Game 7 with a pretty close eye because you go out, you trade. Obviously Harden and Chris Paul, didn't necessarily see eye to eye, and there was a little bit of conflict as far as strain in regards to their relationship on the court. And so you make this big splash with the trade of Russell Westbrook. You bring in somebody that James Harden's had good rapport with, obviously friends with, back in their Oklahoma City days, and you go all in, and you give Mike D'Antoni exactly what he wanted, which was this small ball lineup by trading Clint Capella, and bringing in Robert Covington, a guy that D'Antoni really coveted as far as a 3D guy, and so you have invested, and traded assets, first round picks and whatnot, for this run, and ultimately now you're staring at an Oklahoma City team that was undermanned, overmatched, and undermanned, and now Chris Paul, hats off to him. I mean, before the season, I mean, I know we talked and covered, what OKC was doing before in the last week, but, something that we really didn't touch upon was, Chris Paul was tied to the Knicks a lot during this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
And I, for one, was, why would you trade for, a 34 going on 35-year-old point guard with 2 years left of like an $18 million deal? I mean, that's a typical bad Knicks trade for a player that, is at the end of his career. And by God, I definitely am wrong because Chris Paul would be perfect on this team.
Yeah.
For the Knicks. I mean, he's playing at a high level. His leadership skills are abundant. You cannot deny that. He's given confidence to guys like Shea Alexander and to Dennis Schroeder that they didn't have before. Danilo Gallinari is looking like the all-star that we thought he was going to be in New York. And Steven Adams is Steven Adams, and he's an absolute beast. So you can't – I mean, he's always been consistent. That's the one thing that you can always say with OKC is he's always ride that line of consistency. So, when you look at that and you couple the factor that, Houston obviously had dealt with Russell Westbrook's injury early on, but when you live and die by three-point shot, you got a team that plays very well offensively and you live and die by three. If you're not hitting the 3-point, you're going to lose. Yeah. You can't, there's, I mean, as much as the, the analytics and data and all that number crunching will show you that, the 3-point shot is the most efficient shot you can shoot. And I get that and respect that, that number. But when you have teams that are scoring at a 60% clip and you're scoring 40, even if those 40% are threes, you're still going to lose if you're not making more than the other team. And that's what's going on right now. Houston's not very efficient. Obviously, they were in Game 6, up until Russell Westbrook's untimely
turnover late.
Obviously, I would favor them going into Game 7, but you got to give the credit in the world to OKC because they're playing very good basketball right now.
No, if I'm the front office or even the coaching staff in Houston, I'm looking like Ted Stryker from Airplane. That gif and that clip where he's just sitting there sweating his ass off. It's like, holy shit. Because this was a trade that you moved a fair amount of pieces to bring in, Russell Westbrook. Arguably not enough in the West to put you over the top and put you in a championship, but you should be able to get through the first round relatively easily. Maybe make a run at a Western Conference final if you get lucky enough, but certainly into the second round. But here you are sitting, Game 7, arguably however many minutes is in a basketball game from going home. That this is a team that on paper looks really freaking good. Russell Westbrook at the point guard, James Harden at shooting guard, small forward Eric Gordon, Robert Covington at power forward, and then PJ Tucker at center. Like, that's a fairly decent team. Like I said, not enough to put you over the top in the West, but it's a good start. It's a good base. And then you got an Oklahoma City team that, no disrespect to Oklahoma City, their fans or their players, but outside of Chris Paul, Steven Adams, and Danilo Gallinari, I don't know who any of these other people are. Like, it's essentially, when you go to the major league level, give this example. Tampa Bay played the Yankees the other night, and they're introducing the starting lineup for the Tampa Bay Rays. I'd never heard of any of these guys. I don't know who any of these guys are, but they beat the Yankees. It's the same with Oklahoma City. Okay, I've heard of a few of you, but the rest of you, they're hanging with them.
They're hanging with them, and this has to be one of the bigger surprises, I think, of all.
Yeah.
That Houston was only a couple seasons away and a big injury from defeating Golden State and going and probably running away with the finals 2 years ago. Now they're on the bubble. The experiment is failing? ? We don't know, because as this playoff series has gone, Houston came out strong out of the gate. I mean, they came out winning the first 2 games and then winding up giving back 2 games to Oklahoma City. I mean, give them the credit they deserve. They're hanging in there. And had it not been for a bad turnover last night, the series might be a wrap. But now you go to the Game 7 question, and all the pressure is on Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Oklahoma City's playing with house money.
That's the thing is Oklahoma City, they've already overachieved for this year. I think a lot of people outside of the Oklahoma area wrote them off. There's no way they're getting anywhere. But, they're like you said, they're playing with house money. There is no expectations. There is no pressure for them. They don't have to deliver. They've already delivered.
Yeah, they've already stood up and taken notice here. And that's going to be the big storyline going in, because now you're going to have Harden and Westbrook trying to carry their team to a finals win here in this playoff series. Is it going to be enough that they're going to be overpressing
I
and
think
costing
so.
their team?
I think so, because especially in baseball, you will see players when they're down a run, 2 runs, whatever it ends up being, that instead of going for the single or the double that'll move the runner over, they're going for the home run.
Yeah.
You know, and I see this especially in college basketball, where you're down a couple of points, drive in, get 2 points, and work them on defense. No, let's just shoot the 3.
Yeah.
No, my problem is going to be with Russell Westbrook in Game 7. I think when you talk about a guy forcing it, I think it'll be him, because he's going to try and get his shots up. Now, I mean, he's been a lot better at deferring to James Harden than I thought he was going to be going into the season. The problem is, I think the moment's going to be too much for him to not necessarily grab onto, or not pass up. But I just think in his mind, and a guy, an alpha male type, mentality, he's going to feel like he needs to be the one that does the job, especially against his old team. So, I mean, there's a couple of those factors that, people don't really take into consideration when you think about the mental aspect of the game. That this is his old team. This is, he played his entire career there, and now, he's playing against them. He knows these guys. So, the story, they traded you for Chris Paul. So all those things are X factors. It's, if he can block that out of his mind and stay cool and calm and be in the moment, and if James Harden gets hot, be able to defer, to, the team, who is James Harden. I think they'll be all right. I think they have the pieces enough to win. I fear that Russell Westbrook will come out, and you saw it a lot in OKC. Like those 40 and 15 and 10 nights were great, but those 45 points were on 15 of 45 shooting.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, you know?
Oh, it's a huge problem, and that's going to be the head storyline going into this, because if Houston loses, then you're going to have to think, well, D'Antoni's got to go.
You would think.
You can't stay around if they lose. And would they try moving somebody if this experiment fails? Because you're going to have the 2 alpha males playing together, and I think both of them know for legacy purpose they're going to have to take over. The problem is, can they share? I don't know. And I mean this very honestly. They're going to get in there, and they're going to each want to try dropping 50 by themselves. Is there enough basketballs to go around?
Probably not.
Probably not. So Oklahoma City could sneak in there and get the win.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going any further.
No.
I think wherever Oklahoma City would go after this,
I'll pull it up.
I think that they're going to be done, because I just don't think that they have enough power to compete with the Lakers. And then even with the winner of Denver-Utah, I don't think they have enough. And to say the Clippers are going to be hanging around too, it's anybody's guess.
Oh,
what's going to
Christ. Yeah, no. Whoever wins this series goes on to play the Lakers.
Yeah, it's going to be a wrap.
Well, I mean, to that, though, Houston actually played the Lakers really tough during the regular season. I don't know if they had a matchup during the bubble.
I don't think so.
But, during the regular season, they actually gave them a hard time. Houston matches up outside of, Anthony Davis really well with LA, because I mean, they have Robert Covington, they have PJ Tucker, and Jamal McGee, although he is a very serviceable center, and I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but he is a very serviceable center, but he isn't necessarily a back down presence. Like if Houston had to go against Denver and they had to go against Jokic, who was going to back you down in the paint, that's going to be a problem. But JaVale McGee's not going to be sitting here posting up, running post plays.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, however, will, and that's where, a matchup against Covington and PJ Tucker will be a problem. Now, OKC, though, they do match up against LA pretty well. Chris Paul, veteran point guard. Obviously LeBron James is running the point right now with Rondo, kind of being hurt, and no Avery Bradley. So he runs the point right now, and they got Kuzma starting. So that will be a tough matchup from that sense of who OKC will put where. But at the same time, they've got Steven Adams, so they have that X factor in the paint that will be able to clog up the middle, that will slow down Anthony Davis or JaVale McGee or even Dwight Howard, who's played well. So I like those 2 matchups against those. I mean, I still would take LA, but tonight, tomorrow night, I'm going to lean Houston, because I still think that James Harden's going to eventually just get hot and they won't be able to stop him.
Back to your point, Ken, with what happens if Houston loses, I think you have to let D'Antoni go.
Well, yeah, he's done after this year anyway.
You don't bring D'Antoni back just because I pulled up his coaching history. Won't read through everything, but he's moved around a little bit. He hasn't won a championship in any professional league around the planet since he won the Italian League in 2002.
Yeah.
So, yes, I get he is a two-time NBA Coach of the Year, from 2005 when he was with the Phoenix Suns, and then 2017 when he was with the Houston Rockets. Obviously some intervening years wasn't all that great, but, and yeah, Phoenix was good, but circumstances and times. He's got a pretty decent team here with Houston. If he can't get past here, I think the experiment has failed. You got to let him go. And I don't think you blow up, Westbrook and Harden. I think you give that another shot, just bring somebody else in. But I think you have to bring in somebody else, another player.
To that though, obviously, Ken, D'Antoni was with the Knicks for a while, and that experiment, really blew up, in the Knicks' face because, unfortunately, they just didn't surround him with the type of roster that he needed to implement his 7 seconds or less, offense, which, wasn't obviously Melo's style, and there was a clash there. I mean, you saw what he was able to do with Amari Stoudemire up until the trade, which was making Amari Stoudemire look like a goddamn all-star.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, he was an all-star. I should have said an MVP. That's what a Stoudemire looked, especially during that stretch of he had 11 straight 40-point games. At one point, it was something it was uncanny.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's not necessarily that I think D'Antoni's not the fit. I think the problem is that it's the small ball, pure small ball that they're playing right now. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go into this system and play against these teams that are at this level. And not have a true center. You don't need to play him 20 to 25 minutes a night, but my God, even Golden State during their, the era of murder ball, that lineup of, Draymond Green, what at the time Harrison Barnes, Klay Thompson, Curry, and Livingston or Iguodala, interchangeable on those two, they still started Bogut.
Yeah.
You can't forget that. And even when Durant came in and they lost Bogut, it was Pachulia, who still started at center. So they still had a true center start. Now, Pachulia wasn't ending the game, and he wasn't playing 25 minutes to 30 minutes a night, but he was giving you 15 to 20 of serviceable time that, he fit that need, especially when they were going against teams like, San Antonio and, Cleveland, who started, had a true center, and Tristan Thompson, so he was filling a need. So then when you talk about, you got PJ Tucker, who is only 6'7".
Yeah, he's not
starting at center.
Yeah.
And Robert Covington is only 6'8". They're going against Steven Adams, who, they're being out-rebounded. And at the end of the day, as a coach, as a guy who's coached high school basketball, you out-rebound your team, chances are you're going to win.
Right, and that's the thing with the center. You got him down low. Yeah, scoring points and dunks look awesome and are great on the highlight reels, but at the end of the day, what do you want him to do? Block shots and get rebounds. Their starting center, according to ESPN.com, PJ Tucker, for the regular season, averaged 0.5 blocks a game and then 6.6 rebounds per game.
He plays awesome defense, and I try to get PJ Tucker on 2K all the time. I think he's a great player. He's not a center, and that's not any fault of his own.
He's not a center, and for what they need, they just don't have the adequate pieces.
Well, Clint Capella was that piece, but when they got Russell Westbrook, they were like, all right, we need to be able to clear the middle out so we can let Russell Westbrook get into the paint. That's where he's strongest. That different than Chris Paul. Chris Paul could operate outside of the key and still be efficient. Mm-hmm. That's not Russell Westbrook. So they had to part ways with Capella, and now this is the result of that. And I don't think it's D'Antoni's fault. I think D'Antoni's a very good coach. Outside of those years with the Knicks where I was the first one to bash the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Then when he went to LA, it was the same thing. Oh, he's a bad LA dumb call because he's a bad coach. No, he is a very good coach, and I've seen that now once I've removed myself from that animosity that was with the Knicks because I've learned and I've grown up. He's a very, very good coach, and the defensive thing is total bullshit. The problem is that when you operate with that lineup and you are getting out-rebound, which they are in the series.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to lose.
Yeah.
So maybe if they played Tyson Chandler, or I think Tyson Chandler's still on the roster, if they had that center that they could play, even if it's for 15 fucking minutes a night, they would probably be much better off than what they're doing right now. That's just my feelings towards it.
No, they definitely need to do something because, like you touched upon, the small ball is not going to work against the Lakers. I'm sorry, it's just not going to. If they had to go against the Clippers,
it will work in stretches,
but
you can't work.
But to win 4 out of 7 against them,
Golden State didn't run murder ball for 45 minutes a night.
Right.
It was small increments at the end of the second half or at the end of the first quarter and again at the end of the fourth.
Yeah.
Because they knew that they could gun it at the end of those quarters and not have anything to lose. It's the opposite here. They're starting with that lineup and they're already behind.
Yeah. So even if Houston does get past this, I mean, I think we're all in agreement they're not getting past the Lakers. No way, shape, or form.
I mean, I don't think they do, but I definitely think they might push it to a Game 6 at minimum.
They could push it to 6. I could see that, but I just don't see them going any further.
No.
I think the ride stops here. And then for the winner of Denver, Utah, I mean, they got to go against a rested Clippers team that's going to be sitting just watching.
Well, I mean, to that though, the Clippers did not look good in this series against Dallas.
No, they got pushed.
I mean, and that is not what we all would have thought had. I mean, given my whatever with Porzingis, Doncic showed that there is a weakness on this team, and Paul George did not play well up until that final game,
right,
where he went off for 45 points. So if you can keep Paul George inefficient offensively, and you can keep, you can keep Kawhi Leonard bottled up, I definitely think that the Clippers can be had right now.
Well, the Clippers, like I say, I don't think are going to run away with it, but I think, though, if it does come down to the winner of Denver, Utah, I still think they win outright. I just think that the team is too talented not to carry it over. It's going to be interesting to see how that Western Conference plays out. But to quickly wrap up, though, and flipping over to the Eastern Conference, Miami taking Game 1 against Milwaukee.
Woo.
And Giannis did not have the best game ever.
No.
By any stretch of the means. Pat, you got that stat line?
Yeah, so Miami ended up winning 115 to 104. As you mentioned, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. That is on 6 of 12 shooting from the floor, 2 of 5 from three-point range, and then 4 of 12 from the free throw line. On the flip side, Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, 40 points, scoring. Holy cow. And then also Goran Dragic, 27 points.
For 18 points for Giannis is not a good night.
No.
I'm sorry. And,
no.
And if he's not clicking, Milwaukee's not clicking. It's just, it is what it is.
And you could tell he was definitely upset because I saw that clip this morning where he was doing like a Zoom press conference, and a reporter asked him about guarding or something. I forget what the question was. And Giannis, basically, his first response back was, "Why would you ask me that?"
Yeah.
I mean, it was Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy
took
fucking
over.
Butler. I mean, they put Jay Crowder on him a lot, which Jay Crowder takes a ton of pride in defense. So that was giving Giannis a fit, and he was in early foul trouble. He got his third foul with about a minute 20 left to go in the second quarter, which Bullethauser obviously probably was kicking himself in the ass for keeping him in at that point, especially in the second quarter with 2 fouls already. And that just went on to hurt his performance because he couldn't get in the flow of the game. I can't speak enough to Jimmy Butler again. I mean, my love affair for this man continues to grow the more and more that he is in the playoffs because that dude is an absolute killer. I mean, we said it last year.
Say it again.
I will say it again. This dude absolutely, you talk about somebody who has that, the Mamba mentality. They, always try to coin people with it. It is Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Playoff is an absolute beast. It's different than him in the regular season. He turns it on, he kicks it into a fifth gear, and he is an absolute wrecking ball.
I'll say, as we record, he is currently averaging his for the, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 postseasons he's been in. Currently averaging the highest points per game of his postseason career with 23.8 points per game.
And it's not even just that; it's the other things that he does. It's the defensive matchups. It's the energy and the vibe that he gives the team. I mean, you got guys like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero right now who are playing like all-stars. Adedoji, at center, playing very well and well deserved of his all-star accolade that he got, this year. And then, on top of it, you've got Dragic, who's always been consistent, and Jay Crowder, who's serviceable defensively. So, you really have a scrappy Miami team that we said going into that Indiana series was going to give them problems, especially if Jimmy Butler from last year showed up this year. And that's exactly what you got. And Milwaukee's going to have to step up, and it's not going to just be Giannis. It's got to be the Chris Middletons. It's got to be the Covingtons. It's got to be the Kyle Korvers. It's got to be those secondary players, and Bledsoe, especially Bledsoe need to show up because they are going to throw everything they have at Giannis to slow him down, and they have the pieces to slow him down. So those secondary guys on Milwaukee have to step up, and they didn't last night.
So Jimmy Butler's performance can't help me but wonder how Philly fans are feeling about this. With everything,
Philly's got to be livid.
With everything that came out about him and being there, and all the rumors and the hearsay about this, that maybe he's not all that terrible a person. That it's being proven he's pretty damn good.
The problem is that he wants to win worse than anybody else on that team, and I mean Philly. And I might catch some heat for this, but so be it. He came in there ready to win, and the other team didn't want to step up to do it. They didn't want to put the work in.
Right.
He's now in a situation where he can implement his will.
Infuse himself. You know, he really, you see guys talk about his infectious energy. Tyler Hero talked about how, he's out shooting buckets after games, in the bubble, and you see guys really take after that leadership that he has.
He's draining threes while Philly's at home shooting for par fives on the back 9 of 18.
Facts. It is simply facts, because had Philly bought into this mentality, like your Ben Simmons, your Joel Embiid's, in a whole different playoff series.
We'll say for as much as they want to trust the process, it seems Jimmy Butler's the only one trusting the process.
I'm just going to put this out there that I don't think it's Embiid.
It might not be as much.
You take that as you want. I'm just saying, of the two that you named, I don't think it's Embiid.
No, but I think Embiid, though, could definitely have used a little more influence from Jimmy Butler.
Sure. Yeah.
But of the two,
Of the two you named, I'm just going to say I think Embiid has a little more passion than the other.
I agree. I agree. I fully agree.
But this goes back to the Minnesota stories of Jimmy Butler saying, "Give me the bottom 5 against the starting 5, and we will win." And Jimmy Butler won that scrimmage.
Yeah.
That goes back to that. It goes back to, Chicago thinking that they couldn't rebuild around him. All those things, he just fucking bottles up, and he's like, I'm going to take it out on you. Yep. And then he just dominates. And it's not, the crazy thing is it's not the stat line. 23 points.
The little things he does.
23 points is nice, but it's not great.
Yeah.
It's not like Kobe dropping 30 or Jordan dropping 40 and dominating the entire game from start to finish. It is the itty-bitty small things that he might do, whether it's the defensive rebound that he out-hustled you for, or that steal that he might have gotten because you weren't paying attention. It's that little shit that he does, that the fast break to passing to Tyler Hero, who pulls up because, Jimmy passed me the ball, I'm wide open for 3, I'm just going to throw this up because I'm hot right now. And he shoots and he scores. It's that small shit. That small shit the team feeds off of. That the wheels start turning, the energy starts kicking, and then that's when Miami's dangerous.
Now he's got several chips on his shoulder just because you look at his career. Played for a number of years over with Chicago. Then he went to Minnesota for 2 seasons, Philly for 1 season. All the hype in the world when he went to Minnesota, nothing came out of it. All the hype in the world when he went to Philly, nothing came out of it. Like you said, he wants to win worse than anybody, and he's had to deal with all this crap and all this stuff that's gotten in his way, and he's finally in a position where, hey, this is working. Yeah,
it's showing on the court because he's now made Miami a serious contender in the East. And I mean to say really serious, the fact that you took Giannis out, who everybody thought, including me, that Giannis was just going to run away with this series. He made them look average.
Yeah.
He made the Bucks look serious average. And I'm not saying Milwaukee's in trouble, but Milwaukee needs to find an answer and quick for what Jimmy Butler is bringing to the table. Because if they don't, this could be a short series in a hurry. And this is just going to show how good Jimmy Butler is for what he's done with that team. Completely.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any question about that. So we'll just have to wait to see what they do for Game 2. And as we are recording, Boston and Toronto is currently playing. So we don't really have any updates on that.
No.
But overall, though, a lot of storylines going in with the NBA playoffs. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the Game 7s? Who you got and why? We want to have the conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
what up? It's your boy Kobe Mack, host of the Kobe Told Me podcast. It's my whenever I want to deep dive with the Mac himself, where I get to amplify my movie reviews for your listening pleasure. This is my 30 minutes or less solo pod, keeping it real with reviews, sometimes movie news, and an always dope box office breakdown. I'm the best subjectively objective film critic in the game, and when they ask you where you heard it from, you tell them Kobe told me. Peace.
Hi, this is Jimmy Gazdick from Crimson Brethren and Floodlands, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have a lot to discuss about the UFC this past week. Now, there was a big fight card this past Saturday on UFC Vegas, UFC at the Apex, however you wanted to find it. It was a fight night. 2 big fights that happened that we're going to kind of deep dive into about. If you were watching on twitch.tv/607 podcast, you saw the live reactions to this fight card. Coach was in on the chat too as well. Yes, that is the easiest way to describe it. So, Pad, why don't we talk about the co-main?
Yeah, so that was a fight in the welterweight division between ruthless Robbie Lawler and Neil Magny, with Neil Magny coming out victorious by unanimous decision. Should note 30-27, 30-27, 30-27.
Coach, your thoughts, if any?
30 snooze fest.
Yeah.
This fight was tough. You know, Robbie Lawler was, I don't know what he was thinking in this fight. I mean, he was getting out wrestled and continued to try and push the wrestling and try. I mean, it was weird. I mean, the reffing in this night when we were watching it was, again, you know, I know, and we've complained about it before, but literally the fight before.
Yeah.
The last prelim going into the card, the referee was harping at the guys, let's get some action going, while they were throwing punches. Even though they weren't landing, they were still throwing shots, and they were doing the arm stretch in the field to try and work in their jab. So they were working. But the referee was, hey, come on, guys, let's get some action. Then later on in the fight, there was a fight where there was some wrestling going on. A guy was jockeying for position, trying to advance his position, and they got stood up.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't throwing punches, and I know that you were talking about it on the stream about how, you know, that was probably a good stand-up because he wasn't necessarily working. However, though, he was still trying to move in advancement of his position, which I thought was, as long as you're moving and advancing, the referee's supposed to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're working.
Yeah.
And they stood him up. Then we get to this match, where it was GSP-esque lay and pray.
Yeah, this one definitely was puzzling for a lot of the variations. And to quickly follow up about what Coach was mentioning, this fight card had very inconsistent reffing throughout, whether it was stoppages for position when they were grappling against the cage to when they're on the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to shit on the rest because I know it's such an easy and low-hanging fruit, but I mean, it was very obvious. I mean, there was points during fights where it was like the guys were moving and they stood them up, and then this fight comes, and Laura was getting laid on for 2/3 of a round, and they just they continued on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those situations that for this fight going in, Robbie Lawler, who's fighting against Father Time, and he's definitely looked at his past couple, Pad.
Just turned 38 this past March. In 44 professional matches, it has a 28-15 record. However, has lost his last 4 fights in a row to Rafael Dos Anjos, Ben Askren, who we should note is retired at this point.
Yeah.
Colby Covington, and now most recently Neil Magny.
Yeah, and I think that for how the fighters were getting judged during that, I think that might have gotten to his head a little bit. I'm not using it as an excuse because I thought Magny outpointed him.
Sure, he did. He outworked him.
Yeah, he outworked him. He fought a great fight. He was using the jab, and then when Lawler tried going to his wrestling, I thought that's where he really stumbled at. And he was looking, and I don't want to say old, but he was telegraphing a lot. That Magny was just sitting there and waiting for it. So when they started grappling against the cage, Magny was already prepared to take him down and then do work.
I mean, at one point, Magny pulled him into guard.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty telling.
Yeah, I think so too, because I mean Lawler, is a legend in the sport, and probably a future Hall of Famer. I would imagine he's gone through battles, but I mean, ever since, and I know I mentioned this on the stream, ever since the Ben Askren Noogie headlock, submission.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He
the
has
bulldog
not.
choke.
Yeah, he has not been the same.
No.
And I know the Colby Covington fight, he definitely looked old. There's no question about that. Covington's pace, Lawler just looked lost at. So for this fight, though, I sit there and I'm just going, where was his head at for this one? Because he is a great fighter, but he got away from his stand-up, which he was having success with. And then we tried going to wrestling.
Yeah.
Magny was sitting there waiting on it. And Magny, to his credit, stayed his course, pound for pound, did not blink, was nailing shots, and took him to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something. I mean, Magny was able to take him, just outwork him. You know what I mean? And it wasn't so much Lawler not being able to keep pace, because I feel like if Lawler would have stuck to what was working, which was standing, I feel like Lawler would have been able to stay in the fight a little bit more and maybe had, more of an impact, maybe a 30-29 round or a 29-28 round, more along the lines of that than, just literally being taken down to the ground and Magny just able to lay on him and move and advance and do a little bit of work, but not a ton enough where it was like, it wasn't a snooze fest, because I mean, that's what it was. Like Magny getting up at the end, we were talking about this on the stream, when I was in the chat, him getting up and celebrating like this was some peak performance was a discredit to himself, because if he thinks that was a great performance, and I mean, maybe he was trying to sell the judges for whatever reason, but if he feels like that was some great performance that's going to move him in, that title contention or up the rankings, my guy, you are wrong.
We'll say he is currently ranked 14th in the welterweight division, so slow your roll. No, I mean, in terms of Robbie Lawler, we say it all the time, but Father Time is undefeated. And I think the thing Robbie might be running into, and I can't speak for Robbie, this is just me thinking out loud.
Sure.
Maybe he hasn't realized that he just doesn't have it anymore. He, like I said, 28-15. He's got 20 knockout wins. You can't take that away from him.
Oh, yeah.
But in baseball, you hit a certain point and you can't swing the bat as fast as you used to. At the end in football, you can't. If you're a quarterback, the arm just doesn't have the same zip it used to. You saw it with Brett Favre. You saw it with Peyton Manning. Two of the best to ever do it. Hockey. The reaction time just might not be there what it used to be. Basketball, you might not have the speed you used to. You might not have the vertical you used to. Robbie just might not have any of the technical skills that he used to. There's a little wear and tear on the tires. The edge isn't as sharp as it used to be, and maybe it's time to consider walking away.
Coach?
I mean, I certainly at his age and the number of fights that he's had, if to see him fight again, I wouldn't care to see it. If it's on a prelim of a card, I'll watch it if I'm watching the card, but I won't go out of my way. I don't think it's anything where, it's necessarily so much that as it is probably a guy that's in his head, not the same since that Askren fight. And, you guys are younger and hungrier, and, complacency does kick in at some point.
Yeah.
I do think that he could have been in this fight had he not tried to take it to the ground. I feel like he was able to stay in the stand-up, and Magny was, outreaching him a little bit, and there was some jabs that he was eating, and he was bleeding a little bit, but I still think if he tried to stand a little more, he probably would have been in the fight more, but, that wasn't his strategy, and that's where we ended up.
Only thing I don't want to see from Lawler, if he continues to fight, because I got fond memories. I got a lot of respect for the guy. I don't want to see a scenario like we've seen in the past where he goes to fight an up-and-comer or a relative unknown, and he gets an uppercut or a right hook or something, and just drops in the first round, and then it's painfully obvious. Like Chuck Liddell comes to mind.
Yeah,
I don't want a Chuck Liddell incident with Robbie where it's like, holy shit, you really need to retire now.
When you think about Lawler, he is a fighter's fighter. He has always been in exciting fights. I mean,
go through the list of who he's fought.
Exactly, the Rory McDonald war. That is
God.
one of the most recent ones that comes to mind. If you want to find out what makes Robbie Lawler, it is that fight with his lip hanging halfway off his mouth and he's smiling and looking fresh, ready to go in the 4th and 5th rounds.
Yep.
Which I think he mentally broke Rory McDonald. No lie about that one. But to see him at this stage, I agree with Pat. I worry that we're getting to the sense that his fighting days are very close to being done. And it's not an insult to him. The man, like I said, is a legend. He's a fighter's fighter, a fan's fighter. Like, there are a few people that have ever said, I have not been impressed with a Robbie Lawler fight. However, though, this past couple fights he's been in, he's just showing his age and showing the tread on the tires, as we like to say.
So his last win was a unanimous decision win against Donald Cerrone back in July of 2017.
Yeah, so it's been a while. I think, though, the UFC is going to give him one more fight. I really do. And I think if he loses badly in that one, I think he's going to be released. It's not anything personal, but it's just the sense of you're at this age, your skill set is diminished to the point where you can't keep up with the younger guys, and fighting is a young person's game. So the longer you stay in, it eventually catches up with you. And for the battles he's been in, and we throw around loosely the term wars you're in the cage with, he's been in them.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's gone through his fighting career and been first-round knockouts like his early days. Like when he first came on, he was a phenom, and then he was very humbled very quickly, and then has been a journeyman through different organizations. And when coming back to the UFC, he'd been on fire. So we'll have to wait and see what happens from here on out, though. I think he'll get at least one more shot.
Yeah.
But I want to see it like Pat was touching on. I don't want to see him being like Chuck Liddell, who hung on until he was literally knocked out by a broken arm by Rich Franklin.
Yep.
And then for some unknown reason to this day, I still can't fathom why he came back to fight in that trash fight against Tito Ortiz last year, I think it was.
So that's outside canon. That doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
Never happened.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The fight was garbage, and I'm just gonna go off on a tangent. I want to talk about that because our main event was not a great fight either.
No.
And we'll just get right into that.
Yeah, so that one was in the light heavyweight division, so potential title implications down the road with this one. You had Anthony Lionheart Smith taking on Alexander Rakic, and then with Alexander Rakic defeating Anthony Smith by unanimous decision, 30-26, 30-27, 30-27.
Coach, is there anything noteworthy about this fight?
Outside of that weird knee buckle that Anthony Smith had midway through the first round, no. This was brutal watch. It was almost as bad as the fight before. Absolute snooze fest. Both guys.
Yeah, this
Poor.
was the one, too, when Rakic had won, he was celebrating like he won the world title, if memory serves me right. And honestly, he did not do that much to impress. Rakic came in there against Anthony Smith, who had been on a losing streak. He sounded like he was finally getting his head back together. I know there was before his last fight, there was something that happened outside of the cage, so I'm willing to give a pass about that one.
Yeah.
But when Smith came down to, and by the way, it came out to Mark Morrison's Return of the Mac. I just want to say, if I had heard that on the stream, I probably would have marked out.
It's a good entrance.
It was a great entrance. So you thought, okay, he's back. Lionheart is back because it's the guy that rose to fame very quickly and got his title shot against John Jones. He hasn't looked right since.
No, I mean, he beat Alexander Gustafsson with a rear naked choke in June of 2019. But then, like you said, lost his last two fights. Got knocked out by Glover Teixeira back in May, and then just lost his last fight.
Yeah, he just didn't look good. He just didn't look good.
He didn't look good. And then, like what Coach was touching upon, when Rakic kicked him in the leg early in the first round, it looked like his knee popped out like Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what was going on. He did get back up and fight.
Sure.
But Rakic only did two things in this fight.
Okay.
He leg kicked, and he laid on top of Smith for
yeah. I mean, I'm really trying to recall this fight.
That was it.
And I really can't remember anything outside the leg kick.
I'm no MMA fighter, but I do know you need to do a few more things than that to win.
No, this is one of those that they should have stood him up a long time ago because Rakic wasn't advancing. He literally laid on top of him, maybe landed a couple jabs, working the ground. But there was nothing to this fight. This was a snooze fest.
Yeah, this was bad.
This was atrocious. And the fact that you talked about earlier in the fights, the refs were standing everybody right back up. This one, I don't know what they were watching, to be honest with you.
Well, this was Herb Dean too, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, and he he reffed one of the earlier fights where he stood guys up quick.
Yeah. And
I don't understand the inconsistency of reffing.
I don't either. Like, I just saw this.
The point system, whatever, because that is left for interpretation. I mean, that is up for whatever that particular judge is looking for, depending on their mood and night. But, like, reffing literally should be consistent on this level.
Yeah, it has to be. Like, just for the variances between fights, it's so weird to see because you can't call anything consistent.
No.
There is none.
Well, you can't, like, you go into a fight and, not only you got to worry about what the ref's going to be looking for and the judges, you got to worry about the guy you're fighting too. But, how do you know you're Anthony Smith and you're laying here and you're like, this guy's just fucking laying on me. I know I can't get up and I'm working to get up, but, you see me working to get up. You see me advance trying to move. Because Anthony Smith was trying to get the
trying to get his guard
feet
up
on hips, and try and push him off, but he couldn't. But then here's Rocket just snoozing on him.
Yeah, that's all it was. Literally, it was 15 minutes of leg kick, takedown, leg kick, takedown. Yeah. And then in the third round, Smith, for whatever God unknown reason, tried to do a takedown.
Yeah. And then got taken down himself in reverse, and then it was over.
Yeah, so this was just such a puzzling fight, and then Rakic was celebrating and calling out a title shot after this. No, I'm sorry, you were the number 9th ranked guy in this division.
Currently, after all of the said and done, is number 8 now.
Oh,
exactly.
Hey,
I do have a matchup for him though.
Oh, break it down.
So, rankings as we record, there is currently no light heavyweight champion because John vacated, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Number 1 is Dominic Reyes, 2 is Thiago Santos, 3 is Jan Blazkowicz, 4 is Glover Teixeira, 5 is Anthony Smith. But the one I'm looking at is the current number 7 ranked fighter, 1 Volkan Ozdemir, who Rakic has fought him back on December of 2019 to a split decision.
I love that idea, Pat.
Run it back, see if same results.
I'm okay with that, or I think we did say it in the stream for Rakic. How about if Alexander Gustafsson dropped back down?
We thought, this was in the chat. This is Gustafsson's time.
Yeah, Gustafsson should drop back down because he looked bad at heavyweight. Light heavyweight suits him better. He has more quickness.
Yeah.
And that would be a much better fight to do. I do like, though, about fighting Volkan. I think that's...
I noticed that when I was looking at Rakic's record of because that's his one lone loss in the UFC. He's got 2 professional losses. His other one was his first professional fight way back in 2011.
How funny is that? And obviously I know we're going to talk John, but the dude literally decimated an entire division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He literally, the light heavyweight for years was the premier fight of any UFC card.
Yeah.
Any given night. You had Machida, you had Liddell, you had Rampage. Couture flirted with it for a little bit. Ortiz. You had who's who.
Forrest Griffin.
Machida. I said Machida. Shit.
Shogun.
You had just anybody that was a light heavyweight. That division was rich and powerful. Rashad Evans. And then boom, John came through, dominated the division for 10 years. And now we are left with pieces. This is a shamble of a division. It is arguably the weakest division in all of UFC.
You saw it for when Mighty Mouse left. Mighty Mouse ran whatever division he was in.
Flyweight.
He ran flyweight for 15 years, and it was to the point where arguably they were looking for guys to come in and fight him because nobody wanted a piece of him.
Yeah, when you look at how great a fighter is, look at what they did in their division. This is why we always hold Anderson Silva so high on a pedestal.
Sure, but even Anderson still had guys that came. At the time, Weidman and what camp did Weidman come out of?
Oh, the Matt Serra camp?
Matt Serra. There was guys that were coming up through the middleweight division that Bisping, who were names and strong fighters, but they just ran into a buzzsaw that was Anderson Silva, so it was difficult to top that. But literally, John's left this division to the point where he had to vacate the title, and now you've got this card that's coming up. Pieces.
You got Reyes and Blachowicz fighting for the vacant title.
See, I think the difference between the light heavyweight division and then with Anderson Silva, guys coming down to fight him, I think with Silva there was almost this Undertaker reverence.
Sure.
1000%. Where what was it, 10, 15 years he didn't lose?
Yeah.
It was this Undertaker performance where he went undefeated, and who's going to do it? Who's going to be the first one? And all these guys were stepping up a la wrestling, and I get wrestling scripted and yada yada yada, but still you had all these guys stepping up going, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the one to beat Anderson Silva. I'm going to be the one. And they didn't. And plus, there was a ton of respect for him.
Well, that's the thing. When a fighter is fighting at that elite level and they're that great and they're in their prime. Like when Anderson Silva came into the UFC and he ran through Rich Franklin. Let's not forget, Rich Franklin was one of the premier fighters in MMA.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
And Silva ran through him like a buzzsaw.
Great teacher.
Yeah. And It's a proven fact too. But to see what Silva did, I mean, he cleaned out a whole entire division. BJ Penn was the king of the lightweights for God, how many years?
Yeah.
And then Frank Edgar took
But
care
there
of
were still guys that were coming up through. I mean, John literally decimated it to the point where he didn't even lose the title; he gave it up.
Right, because that was just the difference in skill level, which is scary. But John took on everybody they threw at him.
Yeah,
it's not like he ducked anybody.
No.
That he literally took on everybody they had.
Anybody they said, John, we want to put you up against him. Sure.
Yeah. And just to see of how great he was to do this is where the big void is for light heavyweight. And to see that if these are some of our contenders in Rakic and Smith, they're going to need another superstar to come down eventually. I just don't know who.
Yeah, because I don't foresee light heavyweight main eventing a card anytime soon.
Well, you got to imagine the Reyes Blachowicz. I think it's co-main. I think it's a co-main.
You can't advertise.
Yeah, but
that.
you're only getting a co-main dab because you're fighting for a belt.
You're for a belt. Yeah.
Because the other one is Teixeira, who I know we were talking in the chat. I don't exactly remember how long he's on a fight win streak for, but it's something absurd. And he's fighting Santos, who's coming back.
Yeah, but I mean, Teixeira also, though, lost like a gazillion fights before he got on this hot streak.
Well, that's the thing. He's on the other side of 40.
Yeah.
So it's like, how long can he keep going?
Glover has won 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row.
That's what I said. He's on.
So, he's hot right now, but I mean, also, who is he fighting?
He'd be Carl Robinson, Ion Kutalaba, Nikita Krylov, and Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony Smith.
And in those 4 fights, 2 submissions, 1 split decision, 1 knockout.
Apparently, I would be Anthony Smith right now, though.
Well, I said Smith has got to retool. He's got to figure out what he's going to do if he's not released. I mean, I'm not saying I want to see anybody released. I don't. But he needs to sit back, and his next fight he has to win.
So I think, as the saying goes, needs to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, but that's where Gustafsson comes in.
Yeah.
And I think you're spot on. He looked terrible at heavyweight. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. He looked sluggish and slow, uncomfortable. Cut back down to 205. The division's ready for you. Now, I mean, you obviously couldn't get over the, immovable object that was John.
Yeah.
That's a proven fact. Mm-hmm. And it is what it is. Nobody else could. So now, you know what? It's time to own the division.
Yeah.
That rightfully should have been his from the first John fight.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably.
Fully agree. Fully agree. So now
just turned 33 back in January, so there is still time.
Perfect.
There's perfect time for him to come back down, and I think he'll take full advantage of that. I think that would make a lot of sense, and then whoever they pair him with, I think will be a big money fight for that division, whoever it's going to be.
Obviously, whoever wins this
Reyes
Blachowicz, interim title match or whatever you want to call it, replacement title match.
Yeah, replacement.
I mean, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would think that you would put maybe Gustafsson in with maybe a top contender, somebody that's arguably outside the title contention, but still could push for a title fight.
I'll give you this: if Gustafsson and Series come back down, you give him the winner, Teixeira and Santos.
Okay.
You give him that. I know that you might have a long wait between your light heavyweight champion fighting their number 1 contender, but I think that fight would kind of warrant it a little bit, unless you want to put him against Rakic. If you really think that Rakic's the real deal, I mean the UFC bookmakers, then you do that fight. I'm just sorry. After seeing his performance, I didn't think it was that dominant. He just leg kicked and laid. There's nothing.
I mean, I don't think you can put the number 8 guy and jump him over that many to give him a title fight so you can get, the light heavyweight on a card.
Yeah.
Because even if it's either one of those guys, that isn't even a co-main event.
No, it's
on a card.
No.
Especially with what's coming up as far as cards. That's a ESPN Plus style card.
Yeah, it definitely is. So this fight card, though, overall, like I said, had some good fights in the prelim. I mean, Ricardo Lamas looked great in his featherweight fight, too, against Algeo. But other than that, I mean, it was kind of just a reactionary fight, because what's going to happen now is going to be all reactions. The light heavyweight division is completely up in the air because John Jones was talking about moving up to heavyweight. That still is the plan, but that wasn't the big news that was breaking about the UFC. No. Albeit, though, it came via the WWE, who has announced that Brock Lesnar has not renewed his contract and is technically a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So the MMA world is a bit of buzz because everybody knows Lesnar is a former UFC champion.
Yep.
So let me ask the panel this. If Brock is a free agent, and he is, and where do you think he winds up?
Back with the WWE when they need him.
Okay.
Because I don't force put it this way. I don't see AEW having the money to pay him. Bellator, no chance in goddamn hell. I, again, don't think they have the money. UFC, maybe, but I think at this point, why? Well, just why? So the only player is the only one who's got the bank account big enough. It's WWE. It's when they need him most. And he knows he can sit there and name his price because they will come to him when they need him for a ratings boost, for a pay-per-view boost, for a subscription boost to WWE Network. I think they're the only ones who can hang with him.
Coach?
Yeah, I think that if it's anywhere, it's going to be WWE unless the UFC backs in the truck and says, we're going to give you John and you're going to be the main event of X card.
Well, let me throw this scenarios at you because I do agree. I think he ultimately winds up in the WWE. But I'm going to just play devil's advocate here. If Brock decides to go back into the MMA world, if Bellator decided to somehow pull the funds out from somewhere, and I don't know if they could.
We should note, too, he would have to re-enter USADA testing pool because I don't think he's testing anymore.
No, he's not.
No, he's not. But I think whenever they decide to put him in, what if, hypothetically, Bellator does make a run at him and they somehow land him, at least for one fight, because it has been the fight that, if you want to talk about your dream fights, so to speak.
So it's the one Dana wishes he made.
Is the one that Dana wishes he made at Texas Stadium, and that is Fedor versus Brock.
It's the equivalent of watching Manny Pacquiao take on Floyd Mayweather whenever it was. I should have seen this fight 10 years ago.
Exactly.
It's going to be fucking like, I get the diehard long-time MMA fans are going to be amped up for it and going to be over the moon psyched and foaming at the mouth to see it. But it's the MMA version of Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Would have been a great fight 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be like watching two, not as crisp old guys fighting.
I actually think that if something like that happens, it would be both companies working together. I think it would be them because there's no way I think Brock would sully his reputation to go fight at an organization like that. Even if it's for a trucklout of money.
I mean, like I say, you still have to throw in that possibility in.
I mean, I'm sure you do. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I get it. Listen, he could easily just go to AEW.
Yeah.
I mean, like the other wrestling organization for people who are UFC and MMA fans only in wrestling. Like he can easily just go to the other wrestling organization that's around.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just as real of a possibility as him going and fighting for another MMA company. To me, if you make that Fedor fight, the only way you do it is it's got to be super promoted. It's got to be over the top with everything from the bells and whistles to the arena to everything. And the only way I think you make that happen is if you got the UFC behind Brock in his corner and Fedor and fucking what is it?
Oh, Bellator.
Bellator in that corner.
And if you go that route, make it a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
Get champion fighters from each organization and fight each other. No belts are on the line. Just have light heavyweight UFC versus light heavyweight Bellator. Just have some of your champions go up against each other and to prove that ultimate who's the best.
I fully grant you. Bellator would be down to do it. UFC wouldn't.
No, I know. I know. The only reason UFC would be willing to do this is because capturing Brock.
Yeah.
Which would be the biggest thing. And B, they get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Let's dollar signs here.
Absolutely.
This is no different than Conor and Floyd.
Yeah.
UFC was in Conor's camp the entire time that he was fighting Floyd. For what reason? The cash.
Yeah, get the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that because Brock is one of the top 3 draws in all of combat sports history.
And that's the only way I see him going back to UFC is because if I'm not mistaken, he was on that pay-per-view buy rate deal. I forget the exact numbers. I'd have to pull it up, but the buy rate for the last UFC card was astronomical.
Oh yeah, he was on.
It was massive. So normally Brock pay-per-view buys are normally high, but that's when you take out a certain percentage of MMA fans, casual or diehard, and they're in attendance. If this is in a scenario where they're not in attendance and all of a sudden you bump that buy rate up a little higher, that buy rate record is going to get shattered.
Well, and that's where I think the UFC would need to be involved in this because I don't think Bellator has the capabilities of running this type of event.
Yeah.
Without the obviously the UFC's promotional game is second to none. So I mean, if you want to get this to the top elite level where you're arguably saying, okay, it's going to be $80 for this fight card. Here's your fights main evented by Brock Lesnar versus Fedor.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is if UFC's helping promote.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I fully agree with you. I mean, I think that Bellator, I mean, it's a dream for longtime MMA fans to see him go there. I don't think he would, though, unless it was a complete one-off. But at the same token, I think if he was serious about coming back to MMA, because let's face it, since the diverticulitis, he can't take a liver kick.
Nope.
Right.
And this was proven in his fight against Alistair Overeem. So what is the incentive for him to come back, especially against somebody at skill level of John, who is still in the prime of his career?
Sure.
So, I mean, granted, it's a big money fight. I know Brock wants to, but then again, note the word I said, big money.
Yeah.
So if the UFC really wanted to get him in there and then give John a huge fight, that would draw. That would be a huge ratings thing, and I mean, I could see it working either way.
Well, it would be both. I mean, both guys would get paid.
Oh, yeah.
That's-
You know, both would get paid. Like, I think both of them would be completely happy with it. So it's interesting to see. I know John kind of threw a little Twitter jab out at him, and I know
he's going to, though.
Yeah, but he's also been doing that with everybody from Miocic to, well, not so much Ngannou. Miocic, he's been, but Ngannou, he's been very laid back with.
Well, that, and I mean, John also knows that he's got to promote himself in this heavyweight division because right now he is he's outside of it looking in.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows that as much as, he's given the 45 approach with the Stipe doesn't want to fight the Soul Taker because he already won that fight.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that fight, so he's already trying to play the head games of, trying to get into the MMA, the UFC's head, the fans' head by planting those seeds of, you want to see me, so he can bypass and get right into a world title fight because he's a businessman. He knows that obviously,
smart business.
Yeah, I mean, trying to take on a undercard type guy, a Derek Lewis or, anybody else outside of Stipe is going to be a potential loss for John and really hurt and tarnish the legacy and maybe ruin his run at heavyweight.
Yeah.
So bypassing all them and getting right to Stipe is the move.
It's interesting to see how this is all going to play out. I mean, ultimately, though, we think Brock Lesnar goes back. But what if he doesn't? That's the question we're posing to you, the ODPH Society. Where do you think Brock Lesnar winds up? Does he go back to the UFC? Does he go back to the WWE? Where does he go and who does he match up with? That is a question we're going to ask. Also, what is your thoughts about this past weekend of the UFC? Were we a little too harsh with our reaction to the fight card? I don't think so, but if you can definitely want to have that conversation, we can make that happen. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I'm Harrison. And I'm Jordan. And we're the Grief Burrito Podcast. Why don't I want to play any of these games? Comedy, gaming, and movies.
I was going to say two kids in a trench coat, but it's going to be two men in a moth suit. All I've got is the image of you putting a net over him.
Jordan, bigger net! Dr. Salvador? No, the guy with the bag on his head. If I tell you a name, just agree.
Yes. Could have been like, man with bag on his head. Sarah. Yes.
Hi, it's me. I'm back. My beard's gone.
Look how short his face is.
Fucking stop it.
Tiny face!
It looks like if a tumor had legs.
Yeah, it does. Real gross and big hands.
Yeah.
Do you reckon you could kill it?
I reckon I could.
Not you personally, but
Well,
yeah.
you said you think I could kill it.
I don't fucking laugh, help me. Me tip. No, you're right. Yeah, you can't say tip.
Bashed me tit.
Join us every Wednesday on the Grief
Burrito Podcast!
Fuck.
No, I'd panic.
That was very...
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Time to talk some wrestling.
Wrestling.
Yes, time to run the ropes here on the ODPH. And this past weekend, WWE Payback happened. It was was it a makeshift pay-per-view? Because Obviously, coming off the heels of SummerSlam, the WWE did back-to-back weekends.
Yep.
Yeah, it was an interesting turnaround. I actually, thinking about it after the card, kind of liked it. I like the idea of it because you're going off of one of your arguably big four right into another card.
Yeah.
So you're quick turnaround time, so you don't have to try to reset stories. You just basically can build on the momentum from the last their last pay-per-view. So I like the idea of it.
I was intrigued by the idea. I was like, oh, this is going to be a quick turnaround. This should be interesting. Admittedly, when you think Payback, it's, I'm getting payback at you for something you did. There was only like 2 matches on this entire card that had that instance. But I was kind of mildly interested in this and seeing how it would go. It wasn't until this past Friday night that I was like, all right, if I wasn't going to watch actively before, I am now.
Right?
Yeah, definitely had a big storyline going into it from the previous SmackDown before it. So we're going to kind of dive into WWE Payback, give you our review of the card. So, Pat, why don't you kick us off?
So, leading off on the card, you have Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott defeat Billie Kay and Peyton Royce.
Coach, thoughts on this one?
I did not watch this because reasons.
Yeah,
I also forgot that it started.
Yeah, I mean, it was an okay match. Nothing special. They've been having good matches as of late, and of course, this past Monday, the Iconics are no more. They had the stipulation: whoever these two faced off again on Monday night, loser has to break up. With the Iconics breaking up, so don't get that decision.
Very drastic.
Yeah, especially when what's the biggest criticism the women's tag team division has had?
There is no tag teams.
Yeah, you have no. I mean, your current women's tag team champions are Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who were thrown together.
You mean,
spoiler alert?
Yeah. Which we'll get into. No, this match was okay for the time it was given. And like Pat touched upon, they went to losers break up as a team the next night, which was completely random and out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the women's division right now on the main roster is, with Becky leaving, lacks a necessarily high level of talent. I don't think that splitting up your only true women's tag team is the smartest answer to solve that equation with some of the ladies that are on NXT. But I guess they feel. I mean, I guess I saw rumors that Peyton Royce might be leaving for some time. I read this is rumors, so I don't want to speculative. I nothing definitive, so I don't know what's going on there. And obviously, Billie Kay, is a very good in-ring talent. So who knows?
Well, I know I don't remember which one, but I did see in the Discover portion of Instagram the other day. One of them just did Peyton just did a bodybuilding competition. So so that's why she was gone for so long. She was getting her body prepped for that. Maybe she's going to do another one of those. I don't know.
It's a weird thing to kind of break down. I figure this. If they're going to break up the Iconics, I think Royce is going to get the big push.
Probably.
And I think that she stays on Raw while I think they move Billie Kay to SmackDown.
Maybe.
Or even NXT, where I think that it's not a demotion because it's treated as a third brand. So I could see one of those two happening.
Well, I think, too, when you talk about, just putting one in NXT, maybe to help kind of gear their singles type matches. I mean, when you're a tag team for so long, breaking and doing something independently, even though they did have single matches, you have a rhythm as a tag team. So I mean, getting a new ring set, new move set, maybe down in NXT, developing that a little bit, getting some timing down, might be the best move for one of them,
especially when the spotlight isn't as bright.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I think both of them. I don't understand the idea of splitting up a tag team when you already have a makeshift tag team. Both the girls that were in that match that we're going to talk about here, spoiler-free edition by me, they're both makeshift tag teams.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why you'd split one that is an actual tag. It's no different when they broke up the Riot Squad.
Yeah.
Why split a team that's actually a cohesive unit together and work well together just to get 3 single stars that you don't do anything with?
Well, typically WWE hasn't been too big on the tag team divisions, even though when it thrives, it's some of their best programming. So it's a very puzzling thing to kind of look at outside looking in. So that being said, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Iconics if Peyton Royce is leaving or one of them is leaving, and see who gets a push. Like I said, my guess is I just have this odd feeling it's going to be Peyton Royce that gets the monster push.
Probably.
And then for the Riot Squad, they got a title shot eventually against whoever won the women's tag team titles, which we'll get
Well played.
We'll get into a little later, but there was another title match that followed this one, though, Pat.
Yeah, so that one was for the United States Championship with Apollo Crews defending his belt against Bobby Lashley. However, Bobby Lashley defeated Apollo Crews to become your and new United States champion.
I also didn't watch this one because I didn't realize the show had started, but even if I had been watching it, I would not have. The Hurt Business is hurting my head because I don't get it. It's the inconsistencies of their push or non-push or the push or whatever you want to call it that's going on. They had the potential to come in and just be dominant, and instead they kind of just...
They're there.
Yeah, they're just lukewarm right now, and I don't like it. I want to see a faction come in that just brutalizes people, a la The Shield, a la, other great, I don't want to compare them to the Nation of Domination because that was an Attitude Era thing, but I want to see a group that comes in that's not chicken shit bullshit, that are heels by default and not brutalize people. Like, I want to see a team come in and just roughhouse people.
Yeah.
And that's what the Hurt Business, your name is the Hurt Business. Like, that's what you should be doing. You should be leaving people in your wake.
Well, say,
and they're not.
To your point, the Shield debuted. What did they do? They put Ryback, one of the biggest, strongest guys of the time, through a goddamn table. What has the Hurt Business done?
That's the problem. That's why I figured this one was going to be pretty easy to figure out that Bobby Lashley was going to get the U.S. title.
Sure, and he had to.
Because if you have a faction and you don't have any belts, you're just friends hanging out. I'm sorry.
I just, again, though, if you're the Hurt Business, you should be hurting people.
Well, that's what they're trying to establish now, if you believe the alternate universe known as Raw Underground, where they're dominating. But like Coach touched upon, I mean, it's just really puzzling to see when these groups are put together and they don't do anything, then finally now we're going to try establishing them as a threat.
After the fact.
But it's after the fact.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see kind of how this all plays out moving forward.
After that was a singles matchup between Sheamus and Big E, because reasons, with Big E defeating Sheamus. I'm not going to lie, like, we'll get to this match in a minute. There are 8, I'm reading off of 8 matches from this card. I didn't care about the first half of this card.
Sure. Agreed.
No, this card started off very slow for
this
the matches.
Match was better than what I thought it was, because this is when I turned it on. I caught Sheamus's promo, which was weird as hell, as he was in this, like, Rocky-esque looking outfit with the jacket, the wife beater, and the taped hands, and the hat, the fedora. I was like, is he going? Because I haven't watched SmackDown, so I was like, is he going for a Rocky thing here? Like, the last I knew, he was in that program with Hardy, and he was still doing the old Celtic, Sheamus stuff, and then all of a sudden he's in this outfit, and I'm like, what the shit is going on here?
Yeah, Sheamus, after the Hardy feud, he's just kind of been floundering around. Like,
well, that's what he does.
Yeah, so that's why I said he was kind of in that weird gimmick, and I don't know if he's just trying to be like...
But then, like, his in-ring gear was the same. Like, I thought he was going to come out and then fight in that and just play on, like, the old style, Mickey old school, not Mickey from Rocky, but, like, Mickey Irish looking outfit of, like, street fighting outfit back in, like, the 40s and 30s, like you would have seen.
Look like a bare knuckle boxer.
Yeah, like that type of thing. But instead, like, then he came out and he just wrestled in his normal gear, and I'm like, all right, now I'm wicked confused.
Yeah.
But on to the positives of this match. Big E is a star waiting to be crowned.
Fully agree.
Oh, yeah.
This dude needs to be, just like Keith Lee, is rumored to be strapped to the moon. They got to strap Keith Lee to the same, or they got to strap Big E to the same rocket.
Well, I think it's something a lot of people have forgotten, because, let's face it, people forget things after a little bit. As the New Day's been around for what, 5-6 years, give or take. It's easy to get lost in the shuffle of everything the New Day is. And as great as the New Day is, they're one of the best tag teams to come out of WWE in recent memory. It's easy to forget that Big E was a singles competitor, and a very good singles competitor before New Day.
Yeah. So to see him finally get his push, I mean, obviously it's unfortunate it had to happen with Kofi getting injured and Xavier getting injured, but at least we have it now.
Yeah, but sure, we don't know. Maybe even if they were around, he still could have been getting this because Kofi did.
It's something that we've all been talking about. For a
right,
while.
and it's a blessing in disguise, because without injuries happening, Kofi probably wouldn't have won the title at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Same thing. Obviously, we don't know what the outcome is here, but Big E wouldn't be getting this singles push if Kofi and Xavier weren't both out.
I would love a Drew McIntyre-esque run for Big E in the Royal Rumble that leads him to wrestle the new top heel of SmackDown, which we will talk about at the end of this card.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that.
Hashtag tease.
Oh, I love how you're doing this. Tease. All right, next up, Pat.
That was a singles matchup between Matt Riddle and King Corbin, with Matt Riddle defeating King Corbin.
Also weird.
Didn't care for this match. In fact, I chose this match as an opportunity to go out and buy a little pint of ice cream.
Well, I mean, the pre-fight interview, pre-match interview, Charlie.
Yep.
Yeah, she, says something about how Baron Corbin says you're a bad wrestler, you're bad this, you're bad that, and you're bad dad or something like that, bad father or bad husband. And he had this look of anger on his face. And then they came out, and you would think all right, angry Matt Riddle is a dangerous Matt Riddle in real life and in the ring.
Yep.
So you would have thought he would have came out and just taken it to Baron Corbin because he's pissed. And instead it was the opposite. Baron dominated the first, I want to say, maybe 6 to 7 minutes of this match before Riddle was ultimately able to turn it around. But I didn't get it. I would have thought, all right, you want to call me a bad wrestler, whatever, bro. You want to call me a bad whatever, bro, that's fine. But then you call me a bad, family person. Now you've crossed the line, because that was what his face was during the interview. And it did not go that direction.
I think the one problem you're going to have with Matt Riddle is Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
So no matter character-wise,
right.
he's just...
But the thing, though, is he was bro. Every time she was like, oh, Baron Corbin said you're a bad this. Baron Corbin said you're a bad that. But then when she said the family line, then you saw the bro look go from okay, bro, to an angry bro.
And he should have kept it,
And he should have went out and dominated, and instead... It was
back to normal.
70-30 Corbin to Riddle.
Yeah.
And it should have been 70-30 Riddle to Corbin.
Well, I think the only reason they wanted to do that, and note, I'm not agreeing with it, I'm just trying to figure it out too, because once they kind of dabbled into the outside the ring line there, that was supposed to be the match to light the fire there.
Yeah.
I don't think they wanted to squash Corbin.
No, of course they don't, because they don't have balls to do something like that.
Right, because that's what they should have done.
Yeah.
But they didn't, so I understood it.
And not to mention the fact that the post-fight, post-match, the attack would have made even more sense had Riddle fucking just dominated him straight out the bat with the bro to sleep
fully.
Or whatever, finisher, because he has 9 of them that he wanted to use. Then, all right, now Corbin's like, oh my God, I just got dominated by this little chicken shit. No, I'm getting my comeuppance. I'm going to go get him back. That would have made that attack in the back make way more sense, because after this match, it would have made, the way that the match played out, you would have thought they were done.
Yeah.
Because it was an even split match until the end when Riddle got the one up. No, it should have been Riddle dominated. Now Corbin's really pissed. Now I'm going to get even with you because you embarrassed me.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to kick your ass and attack you from behind like a chicken shit heel.
Yeah.
No.
Right,
hey, WWE, I'm here. Call me.
I mean, my biggest thing with Riddle is I don't think they know what the fuck to do with him since he's been up on the main roster.
No, they don't. They don't. I have no idea.
I don't think they knew what the hell to do with him on NXT.
They don't know what to do with Corbin either.
But
I mean,
and so I just don't care for
really?
I just don't care for the stoner surfer bro. Until they figure out what the hell they're going to do. He's in a feud with King Corbin. Why? Because Corbin put out a quote-unquote bounty on him. Sorry, I don't care about that. Put him in something that I give 2 shits about, and I'll pay attention.
Well, what I think is ultimately going to happen is the Intercontinental title will become, the title to go after.
Right.
And I think you're going to see, Big E go for it. I think you're going to see Riddle go for it. You remember back in the 90s and 2000s
when the Intercontinental title was the title.
Yeah. And you know how there's multiple feuds trying to get it.
Right.
You're going to see that happen.
A la when Michaels and Razor and all them were vying for it. See, to me, I think that. All right. So obviously the main event picture on SmackDown's pretty much tied up right now.
Yeah.
With, I think, maybe, besides the 3 that are in it right now, I think you can probably tease a Big E or an AJ Styles on the outside. Like if it was the
Yeah.
We'll see if AJ stays.
yeah. Well, I mean, I obviously.
We'll get into that a
well,
little
he's
later.
not the guy that he's worried about is not writing, so I think he'll hang around.
He's there though.
Yeah, but if you talk about it being like a atmosphere, those three are in the front tier, and then the outside bubble, I think you got those two. But then everybody's out here, and they're nowhere near the center of mass. So it's like the Intercontinental picture is going to probably dominate. The Miz will be in that hovering in there.
Yeah.
That Intercontinental title thing. I think that what they should do with Riddle, if they're going to continue on this path, put him with, who's the Drew Gulak and Gable, and have them start like a shooters faction, like they were kind of teasing with Thatcher and Riddle on NXT for a little bit, until they broke them up and had them feud that. Let's bring
Catch Point.
Catch Point, yeah. Let's do Catch Point on SmackDown.
It would make a lot of sense to do it.
Yeah, it would.
But I think as how the writing's been.
Sure, but I think it would give Riddle, like you were saying, like I love the Riddle character. I love the bro thing. I'm all down for it. I don't care. He can be the stoner dude all he wants. I think it's fun. I like the going around the ring. I'm all for it. Sign me up. But if you want to give him a sense of direction and point him somewhere, I think you got to either put him in a feud that is going to push, his, to push him to the next level, or you put him in a group where he can be the focal point of that group and let him take off.
Yeah. I mean, we got to just wait and see what happens, but I fully agree they got to do something with him because now that he's got the win, and I understand why they're trying to continue
Well, they're
going to
continue the feud.
Unless they're just trying to buy time till the next big roster draft.
Yeah.
So we'll have to just kind of wait and see about that. Next up, Pat.
Was the women's tag team matchup with Bayley and Sasha Banks defending their belts against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler emerging victorious.
Coach?
I mean, I understand why you want to take the belts off them because you're trying to get the feud going here with Sasha and Bayley, because obviously the women's division, like we were talking about earlier, is depleted, and you need that number one face on SmackDown, especially if Alexa Bliss goes the direction that she's teasing to be going.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So, you need Sasha there to be the number one face to go against Bayley's heel, and breaking them off is probably smart at this point. They lost it to the wrong team. That's just what I feel.
I thought it was an okay match. I think I predicted that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler were going to go in, just because when you see situations like this where it's a thrown together tag team,
yeah,
and
especially two that don't like each other.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. And I think I do have a mild interest in the Bayley Sasha Banks matchup, just because the Twitter interaction that took place on Monday between the two, where Sasha tweeted out, "I didn't tap,"
yeah,
and Bayley replied, "Dude." And so I'm like, oh, okay, we're putting some fuel on this fire a little bit here, But the match itself was terrible. According to ProFightDB.com, it lasted 10 minutes and 32 seconds. Should have ended probably 4 or 5 minutes sooner.
I actually didn't mind this match.
Of course you didn't, you Blazer Homer.
Yes.
God damn.
Well, I will say this though.
Nia Jax cried after winning the tag team titles.
You gotta let me finish for 1 sec.
All right, I'll try to restrain.
Yeah, okay. One, I can't stand Team Hell No 2.0. That is what I'm referring to them as.
Okay,
it's a good name.
The finish was great.
It was. I can give you that.
And the in-ring work between Baszler and Sasha was good.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah,
I will.
I'm sorry. The post-fight thing. Forget about it.
I will give you the double submission attempt that Baszler put Bayley and Banks in was nuts.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
That was nuts.
Like I said, and Sasha was working this match like she was the MVP of this match.
Well, Sasha does that though.
Right.
That is what Sasha does.
Yeah, because she was definitely carrying Nia a lot during this match. But and Bayley too. But like I said,
they both. I mean, have MVP awards because I'm so like. I just can't. I don't want to say something that's going to be mean, and B, my Blazer feelings. I like her on the main roster. They obviously have no clue what to do with her.
Yeah,
literally, they cannot peg you could have a million ideas on a board, and they could not hit one of them.
I think they had an idea, but it goes back to your point about Becky leaving.
Yeah.
They had an idea. They were going to.
They were tunnel vision with that.
I think they were going to follow the blueprint that was laid down in NXT, where she showed up, wrecked house, to borrow from Roman's T-shirt, and she left. Come in, roughshod everybody, dominate everybody, and leave. I think the blueprint was there. Just the person, you were so laser focused that you couldn't take the time to plan out any other options in case something happens, a la pregnancy. Which congratulations to Becky. Mm-hmm. But that situation occurred, and you didn't have a backup plan, and now you don't know what to do with her. So what are we going to our tag team?
Yeah. So overall, though, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But after seeing how they celebrated after and then the Monday Night Raw thing, they are Team Hell No 2.0.
Pretty much.
I'm sorry. And, I'm just hoping this is a quick transition thing.
I think so.
I doubt it. Who else is going to get the tag team titles?
Give it to the Riot Squad.
I think the story is there where, the breakup and now they're back together and the healing of wounds, and I think it's a good story.
I would love to see it happen. I just don't think it will.
I don't know. I could just keep fingers crossed. But like I said, I enjoyed the matches for what it was, and I thought the finish was excellent.
Yeah.
Next up, though,
was a singles matchup between the limitless Keith Lee and Randy Orton, with, very surprisingly, Keith Lee pinning Randy Orton clean.
Bask in his glory.
Yes.
I mean, I thought this was going to end in some sort of schmaz where, this would have been Retribution's time to come out, if anything, to attack Keith Lee, and disrupt this match, or to attack both guys and disrupt this match, and end in a no DQ or end in a DQ or no contest. That's what I thought was going to happen here. I just did not. There was no way in my right mind I thought Keith Lee was going to go over Randy Orton in 6 minutes.
No, I thought there was going to be some sort of DQ finisher as well, just because, like you said, Randy's kicked the head off of 5 or 6 legends at this point,
and he's in the middle of a world title feud.
Right,
yeah.
He's got that going. But you got just got Keith Lee, who Vince, according to the rumors, wants to push to the moon. That he asked Randy himself to lose to Keith Lee, and Randy agreed
and
to
make
it.
him look good doing
make him
it.
look like a rock star.
Made him look like $1 million goddamn bucks. So I figured there'd be some sort of shenanigans, a la Retribution running in, or maybe a Drew McIntyre run in. I know they said a couple times throughout the night that, he's got a hairline jaw fracture. I figured they're planting the seed of, you're not going to see him, not going to see him. Surprise, here he is.
Yeah.
But I'm very surprised that Keith won.
No, I'm very happily surprised he won clean. And like I say, I am fully buying that they're going to absolutely push him to the moon. He might be your world champion by Royal Rumble.
Could be.
If not sooner. I'll throw that wild prediction out. Because I think that what's going to happen is, I know they announced that Drew versus Orton is going to happen at Clash of Champions, the next pay-per-view.
Yep.
And I could see Drew retaining, and I can also see Keith Lee facing him.
I'll say there are rumors that it's going to be turned into a triple threat.
Yeah, well, it might happen, and that's where I think you might see Lee win.
I think it's a little early to be. Listen, I get the strap to the moon thing. Big Keith Lee guy. Don't want to make it sound like I'm not.
Yeah.
I just think it's a little early right now, given current storylines and everything. Giving the belt to him at Clash of Champions.
Yeah, no, I think at Clash of Champions you don't do it.
Especially without fans.
Yeah. No.
And I know the Thunderdome helps, but you give Keith Lee the championship this early, and I really think it's going to stunt any sort of, look at what happened with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife about it. I go, he was so goddamn hot in the Royal Rumble. So hot. On fire. We were all... Give him the championship. We want to see him versus Brock. Mm-hmm. Then COVID hit, and now his world title reign has been a sham. Yeah. And it's not any fault of his own.
No, it's not.
We've talked about time and time again. It's just given current circumstances. I think if you do the same thing to Keith Lee, you are going to hurt anything that he can do with the world championship. Because there's not going to be the moment.
Well, let's also not forget there's also a Money in the Bank briefcase waiting in the wings. That, given who's the champion on the other side of the roster,
Otis,
I don't see Otis challenging for that belt anytime soon.
No, probably not.
Because if he does, that's going to be a squash match if I ever saw one.
No,
I don't even know why, at this point, why he has that fucking
I think they're waiting for the Raw draft again, and I think then you might see something happen there.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I think with that. But Keith Lee winning is huge, and we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens there. Next up
was a tag team matchup between the Mysterio family and Dominic and Ray taking on Seth Rollins and Murphy, with Dominic and Ray emerging victorious.
No real surprise here.
No.
I knew Blake was going to take the loss. Dominic looked good again.
Yep.
And this time mixing up with two different.
Yeah.
Not just working with a great hand that is Seth, but now mixing it up with Blake too.
Yeah.
Who I know Blake has done a lot of work with, like, guys who have come in looking to train. Blake does that kind of like
how McGillicuddy did.
McGillicuddy and the guy who got released that does the Zack Ryder podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Brian Myers.
Brian Myers, yeah, he did a lot of work with The Rock and stuff. So, good match. I mean, it sucks that Mysterio possibly tore both triceps.
Yeah.
That's a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that he just came back from the quote-unquote eye injury.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what do you do with Dominic?
Yeah, no, it was a great matchup. I like the chemistry, obviously, between Dominic and Ray. It was cool to see them use the moves in tandem. You could tell they've been working on that. And like I said with the SummerSlam, it was the perfect matchup to put Seth with him because he will make them look like $1 million. Murphy even more so.
Yeah, and for Dominic, send him in 205 Live or send him in NXT.
NXT makes more
That's
sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's not main roster ready.
I don't think but the problem is I don't see him on his own just yet. Is the problem?
No, pair him with faction down there.
I know, but I mean, then what face faction do you have that you can pair him with?
Well, I think that's something. They might be able to do something with him down there. Like they'll come up with something.
I mean, I'm sure they will.
I think it is like you don't necessarily have to build him up because the last name holds some weight to it.
Right, and it does. But I mean, at 25, and given the fact that his first match was SummerSlam, and then boom, and Payback against arguably one of the best wrestlers in this current generation, in Seth Rollins, it's like. Then what do you do with him? Anything else is going to seem...
It's going to be a step down.
It's going to be a step down.
He's got to go to like NXT.
Yeah, but again, though, the problem is I don't think him on his own right now is, without Ray, is the move.
Should note he's 23.
Even worse.
Yeah, so that's what I said. But but I could see Ray going down there as a trainer.
Yeah, I mean,
and being there.
I'll say Ray can't wrestle. He possibly has 2 torn biceps. He can be a manager.
If he could manage him and they could do NXT, I think that would be the move. A la, like Shawn Michaels and Jose Lothario, like that style thing. Especially once Ray gets healthy and then he can turn on him and go, and then Dominic can go heel. Sign me up for that.
I'll say that can also be a huge boost for NXT in that you ever say, hey, check out Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic this Wednesday on NXT.
Or like even if maybe you turn Garza or my God, my brain is just not functioning right now. Who's Garza with? Andrade. Turn one of them face and let them pair together and tag team. Even that might be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't see a 23-year-old Dominic Mysterio whose first match was against Seth Rollins, and now you're just going to say feast, sink or swim.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the move.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, the sky is endless for him. It's just being at such a young age, he's got to really show that he can hang on that main roster.
Yeah, this is not Cody Rhodes. Yeah. This is a 23-year-old Dominic who, needs to get some work underneath his belt before you can start talking family name.
Yeah, because you know what? Anybody can have a great match with Seth Rollins.
Exactly. Exactly.
But try going against some of the other people on the roster, just saying.
Yeah.
And to close out
was the matchup for the Universal Championship. You had a triple threat. What was it? No holds barred matchup between the Fiend defending against Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, with Roman Reigns emerging victorious to become your new Universal Champion.
Tip of the cap to you, Charles Robinson, because you, my friend, were the star of this match.
Yeah,
the bump he took.
Oh.
Incredible.
Tremendous. Yeah. Sold the ring breaking like $1 million.
And it's funny, I mentioned to you guys off air, but I didn't realize that the ring was gimmicked until maybe about a minute or two before it happened. It's funny, I didn't notice that, but I noticed it probably when they were going up for that powerbomb spot or that whatever move it was spot, and I'm like, wait. And I noticed the ring corners weren't the LED corners, and I go, wait a minute, is this ring gimmicked to break? And sure as shit, there it went.
Yeah, this match, honestly, you've been listening to the show for a while. I have no interest in this feud.
Oh man,
I'm just bummed, and the reason I was kind of passively interested in this card just because half the matchups like I said I didn't care for, but once you saw Roman pair with
Roman was the X factor in this.
Well, Roman, I was interested to see Roman come back because we haven't seen him in a while, and obviously you had SummerSlam where he came back looking like a heel. So is he a heel or is he that kind of in between where he's going to beat your ass, but he's going to be a nice guy about it? But then you flash forward to Friday Night SmackDown, and I saw stuff on Twitter, and I actually was hanging out with my girlfriend, and I flipped it over to Fox to catch it in time, and I'm like, holy shit, he's with Paul Heyman. So that's where I was excited. I'm like, all right, if I wasn't watching Payback before, I am now, because I wanted to see Paul do his intro with, like he does with Brock, with Rowan. Got bummed out on that one that we didn't get it.
Yeah.
I actually, these two were having, Braun and Bray were having a really good match.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Up until the, Roman thing coming out, and that just put the icing on the cake because I mean, the Alexa Bliss segment mid-match was a little weird. I thought maybe she was going to come out and do
Mr.
something.
J.
I'm glad, I'm glad she didn't. I'm glad that was avoided. But I thought these two, given that it was a no DQ match, was perfect for both characters because they were able to be violent and they were able to use gimmicks and make the match look better instead of having to try and wrestle in the ring and tell a story. So that worked really well. The thing with Bray is I watched the post WrestleMania whatever story that was there prior to this. I have a newfound respect for Bray. This dude has a passion and is such a gentle, genuinely like good guy that now like I mean I'm not a huge Bray guy just because I like the small worker more than I like the giant guy beast. So like seeing him and watch him getting emotional and the excitement that he had when he won the belt and everything, because let's not forget this guy went from no selling Brock to everybody being like, oh, he has no respect for the business. Look, he can't even sell for the biggest draw in all of wrestling, to then being like, I got the call that I won the belt or that I was going to go over. And, you see tears start to come down his face because he never thought it was going to happen. And you're like, this guy does have a passion. Like, he gets it, So that respect that I developed for him, now it has me invested in him as a character. So I was watching this match like, all right, let's go, Bray. But then when Roman came out, I was like, yes, Paul, the chair, let's go.
I'm just really bummed we didn't get, and I know we'll get it, but I really wanted Paul to come out and do his intro for Roman.
Sure.
Yeah, no.
And we'll get it.
We'll get it. Yeah, we're going to get it eventually because, I mean, obviously that was the kickoff for Friday night, and that was the big thing going into this weekend. Paul Heyman is now paired up with Roman Reigns. Obviously, we know Brock Lesnar is a quote-unquote free agent.
And supposedly the reason for them pairing Heyman with Roman is to give him an edgier look, but it's also because he is still getting paid his amount for his contract, which is rather hefty from what I read, and it's to kind of justify the contract.
Yeah, no, and it makes perfect sense because if you want to transition Roman Reigns into a heel or an anti-hero, putting him with Paul Heyman is the perfect.
You couldn't just have him, because when he came out and bashed him with the chairs and everything, like us three, older guys who have watched wrestling for a long time, like we get the idea of that's a heel tactic.
Yeah.
But for little kids, or maybe the in-between crowd that, is the casual viewer, they're probably just like, oh, Roman's just really mad and wants to get, even with everybody. So he's coming out and he's kicking ass. And the shirt, wreck and leave, that's a very face style shirt because it just shows that he's coming to kick ass and take names. So yeah, that's something you can get behind.
Yeah.
So they needed that just vile and nasty and rotten Paul Heyman to be there to really push the heel thing over the top. And that's exactly what Paul Heyman knows how to do.
Yeah.
No, he absolutely did it. And like I said, the whole Braun Bray feud going into this, I like the swamp match really just took me out of it.
Right, and I get that.
And the thing, too, especially with giving Alexa Bliss the mandible claw, and it was apparently the hurt hand, which is supposed to have the powers to revert her back to characters. That's the one thing I'm noticing a lot more is happening.
Oh, yeah.
That depending on what
what hand, that's all. But
he gave Finn the hurt hand, and then he turned heel.
Yeah, so
but now that they've pointed that out, it's now they're playing on it.
Yeah, they're completely playing on it. So to see her revert back to, I guess, her original character in NXT.
Oh,
that's where I took it, where she was the
Ice Princess.
The Ice Princess.
Oh, God, no.
That's where I think
it's
going to
get me. I'm not going to be able to watch SmackDown anymore because my wife won't let me. Because
It's interesting though, just because like I caught the clip from Friday Night SmackDown where she and what was it, Tamina, were talking with Nikki Cross.
And she smashed the cup.
She smashed the cup, but they pointed out that she had a couple dreadlocks in her hair.
Oh, okay.
So, which was like an interesting thing. So I wonder how much of this kind of turn is like her own idea, it's creative's own idea, or maybe because they're pairing her with Bray. Is Bray coming up with ideas and saying, "Hey, why don't you do this?" Well, that's the thing with Bray. Bray's always had the talent, but he was just kind of giving crappy gimmicks for a while. And he had, Husky Harris with Nexus and that whole thing. And then he debuted as Bray Wyatt, which had some success, but obviously he's spinning the tires for a lot of years, more so than others. Let's not forget the WrestleMania matchup with Randy where there were bugs in the middle of the ring projected because of reasons. He was kind of giving some stuff and wasn't really going anywhere for a while. And from what I was reading, he was pushing this Fiend character with them for a while. We all remember when he disappeared off of TV for a while and tweeted out about that whole thing about, I've been seeding promos and this and that for, 5 years ago for however many straight weeks. Like, he's been building for this. He's been pushing for this. I think it finally took the right set of circumstances for them to go, you know what? You've been pushing this idea with us for a couple of years now. Why don't we let you run with it and see where this goes?
Yeah.
Well, and the weird thing, too, is I read a rumor that they're actually trying to segue Bray to be the number one face.
Which I don't see. Like, when he's that
so weird.
He's that scary looking. How do you make him a face?
Yeah.
You know what? If anybody can pull it off, it's Bray.
Yeah.
So I give full credit. But overall, though, the card was pretty solid. I would have to say one of the best ones of the year.
I thought, if I know we're not probably like why talk about Raw, but I mean, I thought that this was going to build momentum into Raw, and Raw was going to be a really good show.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't.
No,
it was not. So I don't know what happened between Sunday and Monday, but my God, Sunday was a really good, sneakily quiet, good show that, outside the first 4 matches, even though the Big E Sheamus match was good, I thought they were going to build some momentum, and I'm like, they're going to turn it around. This is going to be great wrestling. And then Raw happened, and I was like, they bit me again. Those sons of bitches.
Payback, Big E and Sheamus was good, but the other early matches I just didn't give to what's about. But for the second half, it was really good. And the card, for being a week removed from SummerSlam, was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it definitely was. I think we're going to see a lot more ramifications come on SmackDown because, like Coach touched upon, Raw was not good. I don't even want to kind of dive into it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it's not. Let's skip that.
No, but to close out this segment, though, I kind of want to pose something.
Okay.
We have a match of the year candidate, which is going to air tonight on NXT.
Potential match of the decade.
Well, break it down, Pat.
So taking place tonight because it is an episode of NXT. That is because there is hockey being shown on the USA Network on Wednesday as we record. Is a special episode of NXT. And how special is it? Well, on last week's episode of NXT, if you did not see, Karrion Kross confirmed the rumors that he did suffer not even rumors, they put a damn video out about it. He has a separated shoulder, and while he thinks he could compete, they obviously would not clear him to compete, so he vacated the title. So you saw a clip backstage of William Regal, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and then somebody else was there. Road Dogg, I think, was back there, kind of conversing, figuring out what they were going to do. And my God, they came up with a grand slam of an idea. Taking place tonight as we record on a special episode of NXT is a 1-hour fatal 4-way matchup between Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole Bebe for the NXT Championship.
It's going to be amazing, Coach.
Oh, my God.
Who you got?
I'm stuck in between Finn and a returning Ciampa. I don't know why I feel like Ciampa might be able to sneak it out, but I'm hoping for Finn.
I'm hoping for Finn too. You just had it on Cole. I think they might have some bigger plans with Undisputed Era, maybe even a call up here down the road. Ciampa, especially with the rumors going around that he might be in Retribution or not. Gargano, I could see it happening, but I think we said it on a couple episodes ago. You've had Finn down at NXT for a couple of months now. You're doing absolutely goddamn nothing with him. Give him the belt and let him run.
I fully agree. I think it's going to be Finn all day. I think it makes a lot of sense on a lot of different fronts. So we'll kind of have to wait to see what's going on with that. But see, that's going on tonight. And my question I'm going to pose is we are going to be breaking down AEW's All Out, which is happening this weekend. This is their WrestleMania card. Obviously, last year is when Chris Jericho became the world champion for the first time, defeating Hangman Adam Page. And then they started their rollout to TV. It's now been a year later. Yep. The show has been hit or miss, I think, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
A lot of miss for me.
Yeah. So going into this pay-per-view, which it's going to be on BR Live and traditional pay-per-view, so definitely check where you're going to be watching.
So just don't watch it on BR Live because it's going to crash a lot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's happened.
Facts are facts.
We are going to be live streaming it, reactions on twitch.tv/607podcast. Pay-per-view is going to be starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, so let us break down this card, and then when we get done breaking down this card to close this segment out, is anything on this card going to beat NXT's main event tonight? That is the question I'm going to pose to the panel. So, Pat, let's kick it off.
Yeah, so leading off the match, I'll kind of mention this first one. It's hard to tell who's going to face up in it because the episode of Dynamite has yet to air, so we don't know what the final matchup is going to be. It's going to be whoever wins between Private Party and SoCal Uncensored going up against whoever wins between Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks. So, don't know what the matchup is because we'll find out who is in that matchup on the this week's episode of Dynamite. But the first match we do know is Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in a Broken Rules match.
Which apparently there's now a stipulation if Matt Hardy loses, he leaves AEW.
I believe that.
So
if Matt Hardy leaves, he'll just come back as one of his 17 different gimmicks.
Yep.
Or he might have gotten his release. So there's been a lot of internet rumors, so take him for what you will.
What?
Yeah, that he is the AEW grass is not so green.
Well, also, it's hard to do.
Allegedly.
It's hard to do the broken gimmick when there aren't real fans in the audience for a while.
Yeah, so we'll kind of have to wait and see about this one. So I'm going to say Guevara wins.
Yeah, I'm going to say Guevara as well.
All right.
I think Matt Hardy because I had not heard any of these rumors, and I'm going off the cuff.
Okay.
After that, you have the Dark Order versus Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and the Natural Nightmares.
So to fill you in, the Dark Order is comprised of your AEW TNT champion Brody Lee.
Yep.
And Colt Cabana, and I believe they're the Super Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Formerly known as Player Uno, and I'm skipping the other gentleman's name. Against Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder, Scorpio Sky, Dustin Rhodes, and QT Marshall. That's the Natural Nightmares. So that being said, Dark Order all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cut and dry, unless they really want to push Zack Ryder. Or Cardona, rather, but as far as I heard, Cardona's deal is only a handful of dates. So
interesting.
I don't know exactly unless something's going to get reworked about that. So that's why I said Dark Order is going to win, especially if you have Dark Order completely decimate Cody on TV, and that's where Brody won the title. So
maybe.
Enough said there.
Yeah. After that, you have a 21-man casino battle royale for an AEW championship opportunity.
So this one's kind of wide open who's involved. I know they've been teasing Lance Archer versus Brian Cage and kind of some back and forth. So I would imagine you'll see that'll be the big blow up there. And then for who gets the title shot, considering everybody involved and who's on roster, it's kind of wide open.
Dark Horse, Jeff Cobb.
I would love it. I would mark out like nobody's business.
Give me Jeff Cobb versus Moxley in like a no holds barred match.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
If you do that, I might watch.
Yeah. Well. I tell you what, you're going to have to watch the stream reaction, and if Jeff Cobb winds up winning this thing.
If it's not Jeff Cobb, I want it to be Orange Cassidy.
Well, Cassidy we'll get into a little bit later on this card, but yeah, it's this one, it's anybody's guess, so we got to see who's all the entrants in, and I'll give the official prediction on the Twitch.
Sure. After that is the AEW Women's Championship with Hikaru Shida defending her belt against Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, Rosa just signed, coming from NWA, I believe.
Sure.
So I'm going with Rosa for the win.
Okay. I'm going to agree with Ken because I don't know either of them.
I'm going to go with Hikaru Shida just because Ken said Thunder's just debuting.
Yep. She debuted, I think, on TV last week. And if I'm not mistaken, she was the NWA World Title champion. So I'm going to say she wins. And new.
Okay. Moving on, you have for the AEW Tag Team Championship, Kenny Omega and Adam Page defending against FTR.
So this one, they've been teasing this feud for so long. Adam Page was apparently officially kicked out of the Elite.
Yeah, saw the clip.
Which he quit months ago, and unless you're following everything they do on YouTube, it's one thing that drives me nuts about AEW, that they want you to consume every single media outlet to follow their storylines, and I think that hurts more than helps.
Yep.
I'm sorry. If anybody thinks it's supposed to be the new way to do things, I'm sorry. I'm old school. I just don't drink that Kool-Aid.
I don't have enough time.
Yeah, I don't either. So this one, I think we're finally going to get the breakup between Adam Page and Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
I think Omega turns heel, and I think Page goes off with FTR, and it's going to be the start of the new Horsemen, which they're kind of teasing a little bit, because Tully Blanchard is now managing FTR.
Oh, come on.
After Arn Anderson reworked their deal. Just leaving it there.
Reasons,
but another end new finally.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Although I think it'll be Adam Page turning heel, just because I don't watch AEW, but I did hear about him interfering on Dynamite last week. So I found the clip on YouTube and I was like, oh, okay, that's mildly interesting. So
But Year of Omega is coming.
As a heel, I'll take it. They didn't say it was going to be face or heel.
It just has to be the Year of Omega. That's what it was written as it is spoken, so it has to happen. Unless it was a change of plans.
I don't know. I didn't unless it was on like their Twitch channel.
Who knows?
It could be.
Who knows? Moving on, in your co-main event, you have Chris Jericho taking on Orange Cassidy in a Mimosa Mayhem match. Whatever the hell that is.
Oh no! Apparently it is a no holds barred match, which is pinfall submission, or there's going to be a tank of mimosa, and the loser could get thrown in that, and that's the end of the match.
Can they hose him down a la Stone Cold or Kurt Angle with a truck full of mimosa and a hose? Because that'd be funny.
I'm not doubting that, to be honest with you.
I think that Cassidy has to win because he is the star of, well, I guess I shouldn't say star, but he is the up and coming guy who I think needs to go over here.
He's the biggest name on that roster that breaks through the kind of diehards that know, like you have the internet wrestling community and the wrestling community that know the Bucks, they know Kenny, they know they know Cody, but Orange Cassidy kind of transcends all of that just because of his style. I saw an interaction online on Twitter from somebody I follow who showed an Orange Cassidy match to their parents who have never watched wrestling, have never seen a minute of wrestling, and were enthralled by it. You know, I've shown it to my parents and they think it's rather amusing. You know, Orange Cassidy transcends traditional wrestling fans, even diehard wrestling fans.
He's the only reason why I check out AEW.
Yeah, like I've had the opportunity to meet him in person. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's an awesome guy. I think Chris Jericho, you know who he is. You know the resume. You know what he's done. You know the accolades. He doesn't need the win.
No, this has to be Orange Cassidy all day. If Jericho wins, you're burying one of your top stars. I'm sorry. At this stage, and if they do, trust me, we will have a lot to say on social media about this because for being the young, hip, new, fresh alternative, you're not building stars. You're just recycling stuff that has been used before.
Right.
And I'm sorry, like I really want to see this company succeed, so they need to start doing the right things and making new stars because if you're just relying on everybody who just left the WWE to become your champion, you're going to fail.
Yep.
Overall. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen that way. So Cassidy needs to win.
Yep.
To the main event, though.
For the AEW Championship, you have Jon Moxley defending his belt against MJF.
Any thoughts?
I mean, they've blown the MJF character. They had lightning in a bottle early on with his initial heel turn, and they wasted it with that feud with Cody. And then they I know he was allegedly hurt, and they just didn't do enough with him to keep him in the limelight that they've kind of missed the boat. So, I mean, to me, him going over Moxley does nothing for me now. It would have 6 months ago when he was the hottest heel in the business. But right now, I don't see how you don't keep the belt with John.
Pat?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat. I feel like you've missed the opportunity with MJF through no fault of his own. He's a fantastic heel and one of the best, if not the best heel in the business right now. But, you know, the ship has sailed on that one. You missed that one, so, you know, maybe try and work around and get back to it again, but I don't see him winning.
So let's take a quick time travel here. Since AEW was announced 2 years ago, had the big announcement in Jacksonville, and they announced all these new faces that were going to sign. Joey Janela, Pac, MJF. Who has really taken off that has been a fresh new face?
Crickets.
Exactly.
I mean, Cassidy was real hot early on when he initially signed.
Well, yeah.
He had that built in already, though, coming in.
Right, but when he finally got to the dance, so to speak,
sure,
his card was not pulled.
I am the probably one of the biggest anti AEW because of all the pro AEW people that we know. You know, outside of like 3FN, like I loathe AEW because I can't stand the fans of AEW.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to tease here. It was obviously, you know, it's the WWE guys, the ex-WWE that they pushed, and they're following the old WCW, you know, mantra and everything of building upon old stars. But what I want to say though is that I feel if MJF didn't get hurt, he would have been the top heel and he would have been over. But he got hurt and shit just, I feel like they deviated from the plan because of that. And Tony Khan obviously took over the book. And I think he saw that Moxley was so red hot that they had to give him the belt. You know what I mean? Like, I get what you're trying to say because I do not disagree.
Yep.
I just think that had MJF not gotten hurt, I feel like they would have given him more push.
That's what I was saying, kind of alluding to, is if had he not gotten hurt, he would have been your top star. Like, there is no chance he wouldn't have been. He's super talented on the microphone. I don't think anybody can really come near him right now.
Right.
And for what they've been doing about his hashtag Not My Champion campaign to get the title, I think has been some of the best mic work that they've had in that company, let alone all pro wrestling all year. I will say that without any doubt. So this all has been building up that where Coach has been touching upon. MJF was on a hot streak, had a great feud with Cody Rhodes, got hurt, had been relegated to the beginning of the show, which
and just in spots in the crowd,
and just essentially buried. To now they finally let him loose. He cuts this amazing promo. He's riding on a lot of main event or momentum into the main event, I should say. The go home show, he's Jon Moxley is wrestling his attorney. So it is what it is there. But once we get to Saturday night, if AEW is smart, they give him the belt and say, here you go, MJF.
The last year of history tells me they're not.
But that's why I say, like, I don't think so. And if Moxley wins, like, I just need somebody to explain this to me, that if we're supposed to be the brand new, fresh company, that we're not WWE 2.0, then show me why you're not WCW 3.0.
I think search social media, you'll see the people telling you.
I think that I'm the opposite. I think Moxley has to go over because the ball was dropped with MJF, and him winning the title right now doesn't make sense. Even though his mic work has been absolutely great and everything, there's just, if you have Moxley drop the belt, you don't have another face that's enough of a star that's there ready to take Moxley's spot against MJF, because the natural one would have been Cody.
But he's off TV.
He's off TV, and he can't ever wrestle for the world title because of that dumbass stipulation.
Yeah, which they'll find a way around.
Right, I'm sure they will too. But
he's also getting ready to film a TV show.
Right, but let's just, all things considered, all current lines of story and everything, Cody can't challenge or wrestle MJF again. So if he wins the title, then he really can't wrestle him again. So now we're in a position here where who else is the secondary star outside of Moxley that you arguably could say right now, next pay-per-view or next thing would be the number one contender?
Omega, if he stays a face.
Yeah.
But really, what has he done that really says to you outside? Forget the NJ, forget the New Japan shit. This is current day AEW. Nobody. They have no secondary face right now.
No,
that could push for the world title.
And that's the problem they're going to have, and they have to figure out. That's why I say,
but that's why Moxley has to win, because they've put themselves in this position.
See, my thinking about this is if they give the belt to MJF, and if they do keep Omega face, you can do something there.
Yeah, but you have 4 months of Omega just plodding along in this tag team where he's looked like shit.
I grant you, but considering how AEW has booked their storylines, that's why I'm saying it's not out of the realm of thought.
Sure.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can see it.
Because if they go by the rankings, it's Darby.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that you're going to mainline a pay-per-view of Darby Allin? No discredit to Darby. I don't want to disrespect anybody.
I get you,
but you want to tell me you're going to main card a main event of a pay-per-view with Darby Allin versus MJF for your world title?
It's a question we're going to find out Saturday night.
You think that's going to put the, as the Bischoff thing would say, the butts in the seats?
The marks will be there if the casuals won't.
Yeah,
sure.
And that's going to be the problem AEW is going to have to answer come Saturday night. So to quickly wrap this up.
No.
Nothing AEW does in the next 2 decades will top tonight on NXT.
I know, and you know what? I've got friends who were like, "This is a recipe for disaster." It's how do you put these guys in an hour-long fatal 4-way Iron Man match? And I say to you, kind sir, who will remain nameless but lives in Texas, I will say that you have 4 of the most talented wrestlers in all of the business. They will find a way to make sure, and not to mention, you have arguably one of the smartest minds in all of wrestling help book this match, they will find a way to make sure that A, this makes sense, B, it's not just a shitty spot fest, and C, they tell a story that leads you to something that's going to be magical.
It's 4 of the biggest names in NXT of all time. It is 4 of the most trustworthy guys in NXT of all time. It is four guys who, when the chips are down, you need a great match, you can turn to any one of them, and they can turn somebody on that roster who might not be a main event star and make them look like $1 million goddamn dollars. How many matches in the last 5 years have those guys have either combined together or separately that have been, 5-star match of the night candidates or match of the year candidates? They're dependable. They're guys that you can turn to at the drop of a hat, like with Karrion Kross,
sure,
being out for the next 9 months or whatever the hell it is, with an injury that you can turn to on a dime and go, we need you guys to wrestle a match next week for the title, and they go, all right, let's go.
And I just want to add this real quick before you can. Adam Cole's been the most consistent wrestler NXT's had. Outside of Gargano and Ciampa, because they've done great work together and all that stuff, and all their other stuff has been great. Adam Cole has been that guy that when you've said, hey, Adam, we need a 5-star match, Adam has gone out consistently, whether it's been in a 6-man ladder match, whether it's been against a guy who's never wrestled before in his life, whether it's been against a big guy, a small guy, Keith Lee, you name it. He has gone out there and consistently performed at a level that I don't know where he was on this PWI wrestling chart, but if it was not inside the top 10, that is a crock of shit.
They've also worked together enough over the years, both WWE and the Indies, that they know each other. They know what they can do.
And you sprinkle in the fact that they're going to be able to tell the Ciampa Gargano story. They're probably going to tease them teaming up together. Like, you have so many working pieces that they're going to they're going to sprinkle all those elements in that when it's done baking, you're going to have this delicious treat ready to be served to you.
I will just end it with this. For our friend in Texas that is delusional about this, twitch.tv/607podcast, if you think that this is going to be the match of the year, and to quote Mr. Bruno Mars, if you don't believe me, just watch.
Yeah.
So join in the conversation Thursday night on twitch.tv/607podcast, and definitely join in the conversation with us here on the ODPH. What is your thoughts about AEW? What is your thoughts about the Iron Man match happening on NXT? What was your thoughts about WWE Payback? We gave you so much to talk about. Let's have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
2, 3, 4.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. In Local Minute, we just have to give a shout out to Excite Wrestling and one Joe Gacy, who wrestled his last show for Excite Wrestling this past week at the Drive Up Wrestling show. It was a lot of fun, obviously, and he has now been officially signed. It's been leaked out to the NXT developmental roster, so congratulations, Joe.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to see what he does down there on Wednesday nights when he gets the chance to. And speaking of Excite Wrestling, Johnny Moose is going to be on the wrestling show on twitch.tv/607podcast this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join in the chat. We are Twitch affiliated now, folks, thanks to you. So definitely come on over, hang out, and we'll have a lot to talk to Johnny Moose about and so much more.
Yeah, just another quick update. Of course, there was the Guinness World Record attempt that was made at Nice Lake Stadium this past week, where powerlifter Bill Clark attempted to break his own Guinness World Record of tearing 23 metal license plates in half in 60 seconds. He didn't just beat that record; he shattered that record. He ripped 29 metal license plates in half in under 60 seconds. So, congratulations to you, sir. Rumble Ponies live streamed it on their Facebook page. You might be able to go back and check out the stream. I highly check it out. You do, because it's nuts to watch. He tears them in half like they're paper.
That's crazy.
It was nuts.
So instead of doing round the bases, let's throw it into the red zone. It is football time. Next week, we are going back-to-back episodes talking the NFL preview show, as you know how we do on the ODPH. But there is one thing we do each and every year that is our trademark. Imitation is flattery, but you can only come here for the real, authentic deal. Pad, what is it?
The Locks and Leap competition.
Yes, the, dare I say, internet famous now, ODPH Locks and Leaps Invitational. So, sitting across from me is the reigning, defending, two-time champ.
Padawan
J. And this has been a competition we've been doing for, like we said, past couple of years. It is invite only, and we usually do it on our Facebook, so everybody can kind of see what's going on. And it's been a great back and forth with us and everybody at the 607 Podcast family and a few other friends of the show. And what we do is we always pick a game via the Vegas line by a favorite. So if they're favored to win, that's considered a lock. And we also pick one that they are considered an underdog. So they would be considered a leap. And how it goes is for every correct answer game you pick, it's a point. If you cover the point spread, it's an additional point. So winner take all at the end of the regular season. Padawan J has dominated the past 2 years.
2 years.
So what we have decided to do, and we have been teasing this for a while. In fact, if you have actually been following on Twitter today, it is the Lit Gaming Arena's Podlift Day. Shout out to LGA. And we have decided that this year we want to invite some of our podcast content creating friends to join in this year.
So they're just trying to take me off my pedestal.
Well, you know what, Pad? You wanted the smoke, so I thought let's bring some fire. So what we've decided to do is we created a Yahoo group to do this, and obviously with 2020 being such an awful year, we want to finish it out with friends of the show, and let's just have some fun. We're inviting you to join in via this invite, so we're going to keep it strictly invite only. If I don't know you in the group, you're not going to be lasting long, so we want to just keep this to have some fun to close out the year. Talking the NFL games is strictly optional, so if you're invited and you're like, football's not really my thing, don't feel obligated to join in. I'm already going to tell you right now. Pad is already talking a lot of trash. Pad, is anything before we read off who we are going to invite into Locks and Leaps?
To quote the 16-time WWE champion John Cena, you want some, come get some.
Wow. He is talking that smack.
I mean, listen, I'm in the Anderson Silva, John Jones conversation of I have run roughshod over the WWE or the Locks and Leaps division. Many have tried, none have successfully accomplished taking me off my pedestal. So you had to call in some hitters.
Yeah, we did. So what we decided to do is we are going to do this via the Yahoo group. So that is going to be the one that's a little more wide open to the invite only. So like I said, the Locks and Leaps Invitational. It's like the Jim Rome smack off, if you will. Only few get allowed to enter and participate, and we're going to do something fun at the end of the season for the winner take all. If we get ties, we'll cross that as we get to it. But, Pad, we are also going to switch up what we're doing on Facebook. So you want to break that down a little bit?
Yeah, so when we're on Facebook, if we're going to obviously, rules stay the same, make a pick, you get, when the point spread thing. But if you happen to miss a week, so, whatever happens, life, family, work, phone craps out, internet craps out, if you happen to miss a week, the next week you will be able to make 2 additional picks so that you stay on pace with everybody else. So that way you don't fall out and go, well, I'm mathematically eliminated from being able to participate, so why even bother?
Yeah, because the Facebook one is just going to be one game that's a lock, one game that's a leap. The Yahoo group, you got to pick the entire schedule of the games that day.
Yep.
So that one we're making it wide open, so it's not so very, I want to say tight. This is one that's going to be that we should have one clear, decisive ODPH Locks and Leaps Invitational winner for 2020.
Yep.
So that being said, Pad, let us read off the competition.
Sure.
So obviously the first entrance in this year's competition is that of the ODPH panel. So myself, Ken M., Coach Duffy, and reigning defending champion Padawan J.
Yup.
Next up is our friends over at hashtag 607 Podcast 8122 Productions. We are inviting Rich from 3FN and Ron in from 3FN. Also joining is Tom from Off the Cuff Gaming. Crazy Curtis Gaming is also joining on the field. Friends of the show, you know him from, he's obviously been on the wrestling show when we've done it a few times. Our guy Vinny is going to be returning to the field.
Right.
We're also bringing Andy Adams back, so shout out to Andy. And of course, if we're talking friends of the show, who else but the one and only Dre Driven we're bringing on. So Dre, we're sending you an invite to join in the Locks and Leaps Invitational. Now, who are we inviting from our podcast/content creating family, Pad?
Oh.
We're going to kick off with the first entrant. I shot this man an invite back in January.
Wow.
He's been waiting this long.
Wow.
He doesn't take any weeks off if you listen to his podcast. He's one of 4 friends that talk nerd each and every week, consistently now for 6 years. He does know his sports, though. So entering the ODPH Locks and Leaps Invitational is one Joey DiCarlo from the So Wizard podcast.
All right.
Also joining one of our closest friends, biggest supporters of everything we do here at ODPH and 607 Podcasts, the man, the myth, the wonder soul, is joining
All right.
the ODPH Invitational. We're also sending an invite out to the Book of Lies podcast, the Online Warriors podcast. Our good friend, Brian Wayne from Cheers to Comics, is invited into the field. We're also shooting an invite out to the Ghosts of the Stratosphere. They're big Seattle Seahawks fans. So we'll have to see if they want to join in on the fun here. We're also shooting an invite out to Pint of Comics, JT and Dom from the East Coast Avengers. We're shooting an invite out to JVD from the Villains to Man podcast. We're shooting an invite out to Dan from Stranger Damies. We're also shooting an invite out to Robin from the Black Case Diaries podcast. And last, but certainly not least, from the 30 and Nerdy podcast, the Duke of Nerd, the sweet tea from the Nerdy South, Tyler Mack, is in the field. So if you are interested in joining in, I'm shooting the invites out. We might have one or two that be a mystery entrant in the late. But Pad, hearing the competition, are you scared? Are you worried? What is your thoughts right now?
Just more asses for me to whoop.
Dang. Pat is not playing this year, folks.
Nope.
So definitely.
I'm coming in like CM Punk in Chicago.
Holy sugar cookies. Pad wants to smoke,
Flair
folks.
in the Queen City.
Pad wants that smoke. So
Conor McGregor in Dublin, Ireland.
oh my God, Pad. When we tweet this out later, it's going to be epic. Like I said, we actually teased the early invite on the LGA tweet during the pod lift, so we're going to definitely be shooting some invites out tonight. So definitely stay tuned for everybody that's going to be involved in the ODPH Locks and Leaps competition. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get started on this. So that all being said, the music you heard on this episode is that of Fair City Fire. They're our friends from Austin, Texas. They're doing a lot of big things on Instagram right now, so if you want to find out what's going on with them, shout out the Robots, Floodlands, Second Suitor. Definitely head on over to ochodoroparlayhour.com/music. You can also head on over while you're at the ODPH website to the directory, which we have friends of the show, such as Tom from Off the Cuff Gaming, who's, I can imagine he's going to have a few choice Ratchet and Clank memes for you, Pat.
Oh, sure.
And what's Pat's reaction to that going to be? Exactly. Dead silence, because Pad is ready and focused for the Locks and Leaps this year. You can also check out organizational links supporting Black Lives Matter and voter registration and Podchaser lists for all the amazing pod groups we are in. So shout out to Alternate Reality Radio, shout out to Pod Nation, shout out to Legion Independent Podcast, shout out to the aPODalypse, and shout out to #607 Podcast, patreon.com/8122 Productions. You can find out everything going on with Rich Ron and #Big Natty Cool, who I don't think he might be a late entrant this year to our Locks and Leaps. I got to talk to Diesel about it, because I know last year he kind of faded out a little bit, so we'll see if he wants to return. Because Pat, he is on Twitter, so you can only imagine the tweets after games.
Uh-huh.
They're not behind a paywall, but if you want to find out everything that's going on with them, you definitely want to head over there and check it out. Also on the ODPH page, you can find out our social media links, and of course, a link to twitch.tv/607 podcast, where we are now Twitch affiliates. So thank you very much, folks. All that and so much more at ochodoroparlayhour.com. That's all I got for this week. So the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.